Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here,
And Blue Dragon 5.
and welcome to the show where we wax poetic about the movies we see on a month to month basis. It's time to crack open our
Movie
memoirs.
Memoirs!
All right, Dragon. So yeah, it's been kind of a weird month of movies for me. A lot of blockbuster stuff coming out. Some of the more high profile independent movies I've not really liked all that much. And let's just say my catch up is just thrown all out of whack by a project I'm working on. So before we get into any of that, we're going to, of course, as we always do, go over the news. And Little Blues in the chat. And yeah, we are definitely going to go over some of the people that we lost. Maybe not all of them, but it's a fair number of them. So, Dragon, let's start with one of the big ones, which is very serendipitous for our means, considering we just recapped a kind of a short film biopic project based on this man not too long ago, Richard Simmons. So yeah, it's kind of surreal where there's a period of time where no one really knew what the deal was with Richard Simmons, where he was. He kind of popped up and ensured everyone he was fine, but clearly he was going through some sort of health issues. I don't know, Dragon. It's just like this is a guy where he's kind of like the beacon of fitness and health, and to lose him almost kind of feels like a betrayal in a way. Not that Richard is betraying us, but just like, okay, are you saying that out of the Richards, Keith Richards is the one that lives longer than Richard Simmons? I don't know, Dragon. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you. In light of all the buzz of Court Jester, it's very sad. I think it adds a layer of meaningfulness that he had not really. Again, he was very much kind of like gone under the radar, and it was a big deal when he kind of came back on social media after the Court Jester, and there also been like a few things like before that where he was so off the grid, everyone's asking, "Hey, Richard Simmons, are you still alive?" Which that was kind of that was a thing where everyone thought he had either gone missing or potentially passed away like earlier because he had just kind of went kind of the nice, quiet, tranquil life. So the man did find peace, which is so rare in this life
Mm-hmm.
to find, and it seems that he wasn't really green lighting like a Pauly Shore a biopic, which would be interesting to see how that may or may not go. But
I mean,
it's
given what we found out about Pauly Shore, if they do a biopic, maybe approach it in the same way that they did the Pauly Shore one. Maybe not have Pauly Shore in the lead of like a high profile official Hollywood production.
well, sure, but either way, that the thing was made out of out of love and just
It
kind of like
was.
an insight that we don't really like. Again, like an insight the average Joe might not know about Richard Simmons, which really kind of epitomized it's like we have these icons of pop culture, and we only really know them on the surface level, and it's kind of neat to look at them and just kind of factor in what kind of gets a guy to that place. Like what's the core drive behind like just this the guy, if a guy becomes a cliche, which Richard Simmons was, he was the exercise guy. He
Mhm.
was the happy peppy, exercise guy in the big shorts. That's who he was. But what the court jester kind of enlightened us to, and kind of makes you want to look into the real guy, is that this guy was very much about self improvement. He was about like self acceptance and self improvement, of like not just doing it because you want society to accept you, but it's like what, if you're driven enough, you should have the tools to be able to achieve that, which basically he provided with Sweating to the Oldies.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
and, and again, he was so often parodied and showed up in all sorts of stuff. I mean, of course, the Nutty Professor being a prime example.
Rocco's
Uh,
Modern Life.
yep, being a fun one, just Ed Bighead just
Mhm.
screaming, ah! Just or the screaming, just during the exercise. I think it was Heifer. I think it was probably more so Heifer because they could buy. I think it was like a weight loss episode there. Anyway, I think ultimately Pauly Shore did right by him, and I think in general, Rich Simmons, just very 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 much a staple of, I want to say, kind of 80s and 90s, kind of a fitness. Like Richard Simmons, just again, he's ingratiated himself. Even still, I mean, still people working out, and they could probably find streams or stuff these days. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are still clinging on to, the very least, people in kind of midlife onward that are doing the exercise. They're using those exercise DVDs Richard Simmons put out. Like, he's still
Mhm.
around. He's still kicking. He's still working those. He's working those workout tushies. He's getting them in shape. He's but again, with a smile on his face. That guy, he seemingly he loved life, and he believed in the human spirit and then the ability to change. So that's something.
For sure, for sure. Okay, next up we have another legend. We have Shelley Duvall. This happened pretty early in the month. Dragon, I know her mostly for two pretty iconic roles. Of course, there's Wendy, the wife from The Shining, in which she went through a lot of stuff. Like, it's a great performance, but in order to get it, Kubrick had to basically like borderline abuse her on the set to get the performance the way that he wanted it. And then the role that she was made to play, Dragon, I think my personal favorite role of hers is definitely Olive Oil. I think just perfect casting there. I also know she had Fairy Tale Theater. She worked with the Jim Henson Company on that, I think. So, what's your experiences with her?
I mean, it's pretty similar, Tiki. Just the Pai was very much, I think, kind of the happier, kind of like the, the least, the less horrifying introduction to Shelley Duvall, aside from, oh, so she's the lady screaming bloody murder when Nicholson's chopping through the door. But yeah, I mean, Shelley Duvall, she was very much like, say you will about Pai. There's just like kind of a fun aspect, which I think exists with all the cartoon, the live action adaptations of. You're curious, like, what would it look like if they were in live action?
But
Like,
honestly, Popeye went harder on that than most live action adaptations do, really.
yeah, no, it did. That's what I'm saying. Like Duvall, it's really, you kind of like exemplified that. Like, well, if you need olive oil, right there. So she'll again. So yes, like that she's kind of like in the infamous and famous side of film. There she is, infamous with Pai, which again I think over time has got somewhat of a kind of a cult kind of status, somewhat.
I feel like people at the very least really appreciate the production design of that movie.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
Popeye is from a design standpoint. It's like,
Mhm.
again, just the whole like, what would it look like brought to life? But yeah, of course, The Shining. Because of that, she will always be part of like possibly the most like one of the most iconic horror moments of all time.
She's a
She's
scream queen, man. She's a definite scream queen.
yeah, like one of the like one not the original, but one of the originals.
Mhm.
Janet Leigh essentially is the original. Like that's the scream queen.
If Janet Leigh is the first lady of horror, she might
Mhm.
be the second lady of horror.
Yeah, that's a thing. I'm trying to remember. Well, God, do you remember what year The Shining came out?
You know what, it might.
I
Let's
think it
not
was
get
in the
into semantics here. She's,
well.
but she's definitely one of the big ones.
Well, okay. My point is, I mean, you basically have two generations of Lee with Jamie Lee Curtis and Janet Leigh, and then you have,
I think Jamie Lee Curtis was a little bit before The Shining.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So based on that, but that's like a generation. It's still like the Janet Leigh family, so barely
Mhm.
counts. So yeah. All right.
Okay, next up we have Bob Newhart. I'm gonna let you take the lead on this mostly. I'm very familiar with him through his work specifically on The Rescuers Down Under, where he's just constantly just getting he basically has the Kristoff arc from Frozen 2. But Dragon, I'm sure you can speak more eloquently to his achievements, like from the sitcom point of view.
Yes. So this is a sad day. Beloved star just he got up there. He's 94, which honestly it seems to be it's kind of the danger zone. The 94 to 95 kind of
Mid
range for
90s, yeah.
for our greats. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at, though. But yeah, Bob Newhart was just one of the staples of television. This week we lost a lot of the binding of pop culture. This month, that's the thing, we lost a lot of the staples.
Mhm.
And Bob Newhart was huge. I mean, of course, he had his success was remarkable. And the fact that Bob Newhart was like, he was very much the earnest comedian. It was very much, he was all in the delivery. He made it look so effortless, just in the sense of, that's a lot of the comedy greats, just they make it look so easy just by being themselves, which is the key to any great comedian, where they're basically just storytellers. And Bob Newhart could do that. Like, there's like one of the famous bits that he did was like he was on stage and he basically be like, it's the other side of the phone conversation, or be like talking to someone. He basically turned that into a TV show with the Bob Newhart show, and then he had Newhart, and it's just insane that he basically got two shows with his name in the title for both shows.
Right.
Seemingly incredibly lazy on the second part, just in terms of the title.
Whatever.
But that's the thing, that just speaks to the success and the notoriety of this guy.
His clout, yeah.
He was good friends with Don Rickles. You knew, even recently, like that show I told you about, For All Mankind, the Apple TV Plus show with Joel Kinnaman. There is an episode of that show, which is a great episode. It's pretty, now mind you, there's probably a lot of bottle episodes retrospect because they're in space half the time. But let's just say one of them is like in the first season is, I think, called Hi Bob. And it's called Hi Bob because the gag is our three astronaut characters they're in the shuttle, and they have like this, again, this is like, it's a period piece, so it's like probably in whenever the Bob Newhart show was around, they taped like 6 episodes of the Bob Newhart show, and they basically watched them on loop in space, and they would perform it because they memorized all the lines. So that's what I'm saying, it's like a tribute to Bob Newhart.
Oh wow!
Because he was that big, and just of course, for me though, whenever I think of Bob Newhart, I think you and I think of two things. Okay, you think of The Rescuers, which is great, and of course probably a more definitive performance. But for me, I'm thinking Papa Elf from the Elf movie. I mean, his role in that.
That's a big one for sure.
Every time I think of Bob Newhart, I'm thinking of that role, and not just for the reason you.
I didn't really grow up with Elf. I was a teenager when it came out, but yeah, no, I can see if you were a little younger when that movie came out, it would definitely hit you.
It's so big for two reasons. Because one is Jon Favreau showing respect to the medium of like, we want someone with like just like someone that we need Americana in this. We need someone we need kind of our Jimmy Durante. We need someone to be the narrator and someone like the audience, or like someone kind of timeless in a sense. Someone in a sense that, the generation that watched like the Rankin Bass specials, or like, the classic Christmas movies would be able to have like a reverence, and it'd be like, because Jon Favreau wanted to make kind of like a family classic, which he did with Elf, and then Bob Newhart is certainly a big arrow in the quiver on that of like, oh, it's Bob Newhart, like nothing says, television and family friendliness than Bob Newhart. And I think what really helped is that he's essentially Pa Kent in that movie. He's the adoptive elf father. And again, just the moment just melts, there's 2 moments melt my heart with him in that movie. Just the whole, he says, well, there was like this one worker elf who had never found the time to settle down. Just seeing him take on the responsibility hesitantly, but lovingly takes on, the raising the human child as an elf, and then him saying goodbye to him, saying, I'll always be your father. It's like, that is, again, he only has like 3 scenes in that movie. He makes every second count, and it's like a classic. It's just utterly delightful. I'm going to say this because I know you're not going to give it time of day, but I'm going to say it. Like it or not, The Big Bang Theory,
oh God,
paid wonderful tribute to the man. Okay, it paid wonderful tribute to the man because like they brought him in because there was the idea of like, you had the TV heights of The Big Bang Theory was very successful, like it or not. And it was like kind of like a passing of the baton to some degree of like, okay, we need to bring in kind of like, we're paying a tribute to the star of old, to the kind of the stars of new. And they killed him off in the show, and while he was around, and they brought him back and they made him a Jedi. It was like this thing where hallucinated him as Obi-Wan Kenobi. So we put Bob Newhart in Jedi robes, and we addressed death in a way that Newhart would, where it's like not getting maudlin over, it's not getting hammy. It's just basically, hey, I'm still imagining you around because you made an impact on my life, instead of getting schmaltzy about it. It's just like Newhart's just kind of done with it. Just like, oh, I guess I'm dressed like a Star Wars character now. Okay. That's what I'm saying. He just rolled with it. Just Newhart, he was the ultimate straight man, and it's all about just the delivery and the earnest.
I mean, his Rescuers character was very much like the everyman as well.
There you go. And that plays in the animation. That was like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Little Blue brought up a couple interesting points about Shelley Duvall. He says, well, he's just reminding us the first time he saw Shelley Duvall was in Frankenweenie, which thank you for bringing that up, because I always forget about Frankenweenie, because whenever I think about Frankenweenie, I think of the the animated film, and yeah, I always forget that there is the live action short that does actually have like legitimate Hollywood stars in it. So yeah,
Without
that is
Frankenweenie,
definitely a memorable one from her. Go ahead.
without Frankenweenie, we do not have Pee Wee's Big Adventure, and then without all that, we have no Tim Burton. We possibly have no Batman. So it's very important.
Basically, yeah.
So
And then
Tiki,
also
just
he points out that The Shining and Popeye came out in the same year, which
no,
that's
they did.
crazy.
That is true. Yep, that's very true.
Talk about
By
high
the way,
highs
Tiki,
and
so
low
what?
lows for her.
Yeah, oh for
But
sure.
it's interesting because like The Shining on a professional level is a high, but I imagine Popeye was probably a lot more fun to actually make.
Yep. It's like, hey, look, Robin Williams singing his Pie Pie versus like, okay, emotionally scarring film experience.
Definitely like mixed emotions on that. I'm
Yep.
sure.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. This person isn't really in our wheelhouse all that much, but we gotta pay respects. Shannon Doherty, Dragon. I'd say it's fair to say you and I not really 90210 people.
Oh, not remotely. God no.
Okay, but she did pop up in a couple Kevin Smith
Mhm.
movies, which is where I'm assuming you know her most from.
Absolutely.
Okay,
So,
so yeah, Mallrats. She has a pretty decent role in Mallrats, and then she plays herself in a cameo in Jay and Bob Strike Back. So you want to speak on her, Dragon?
yeah, it's real quick. Just
Oh,
again, we know her as Renee from Allrats, which is kind of a key role with the Jason Lee character. Um, with Brody. Anyway, it bums me out because she I heard she had been sick, and she had cancer. She'd been battling cancer a lot of her life, and a lot of highs and kind of remission periods. And essentially, in January, it came back, and she kind of like had some surgery. It seemed to really it did buy her more time. It went from like January to July. Kevin Smith, he actually visited her one last time. He wanted to bring her to this, basically doing. He calls it the Vulgarthon in this theater. Basically, he basically does like almost like a Marvel movie, kind of like, hey, watch all the Marvel movies, kind of binge with the View Askew films
oh, nice, nice.
as movie theater. So he invites like the guests and the stars to do Q&As and stuff, and like she was
Mm-hmm.
invited along with the other guys. But yeah, that's the thing. Like he invited her and didn't hear back from her, and that's because she passed. But at least he saw her one last time, and it is a shame, and it's just the fact though the reason she got Mallrats is because of those, the 90210s and the charms and all that,
I mean,
she
we weren't into 90210 or Charm, but let's face it. Like, I'm
yeah,
sure, like, we have a generation of sisters that were Dragon.
that is true, yes. So as I'm
With my
saying, like
sister, I don't think 90210, but Charmed absolutely. My sister was into anything that had any like remote witchcraftian elements to it.
yeah, Wicked. Yep. So she'll definitely be missing. Gone way before her time. I mean, at 50, I think it was 56 or something. Just
Yeah, yeah.
Plus, I mean, she was also sick with she was kind of sick with a disease that kind of like, it's affected my family beyond not cancer, but just like the things she was suffering from, some Crohn's. So there's that and cancer. So,
Mm-hmm.
it was sad, it's a shame.
All right, and finally up on the docket we have. Oh, I guess that's it for the
Yeah,
deaths. Okay.
that's it.
All right, so let's move on to some more positive news. We got some San Diego Comic-Con news, Dragon.
Yes, we did.
Do you want to do Fantastic Four first, or do you want to do
Well,
maybe
yeah.
the bigger announcement first?
Well, I mean, look, the Fantastic Four didn't really get a whole lot, so let's just cover that, and then we'll talk about the big thing. So,
Okay, that's fair
um,
enough.
Fantastic Four, just a few things we kind of knew about already, but they had a really nice presentation of it. So at the San Diego Comic Con, they presented the Fantastic Car in a fantastic way. It was actually flying through Hall H.
That's pretty incredible. I've got to say
Yeah,
that's one way to make the entrance.
Look, it looks pretty cool. I'll say it doesn't look as awesome as like the full-on, like right from the comics one we saw in live action recently. I won't say where. Um, but
right.
the difference is though this is real, and we actually saw it like flying. So we actually saw the real prop flying through there.
Right,
So
yeah.
that's pretty. That's kind of hard to beat. So I'm a sucker for good vehicle design. It looks very 60s. So I'm impressed. Also, we showed some footage and we confirmed Galactus, not a cloud. So we're in the right direction. We're stepping in the right direction.
I think this is pretty much something we all already assumed.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to know.
Fun fact though, you're gonna like this. They had a really nice light show too, like when this was happening. So like after like inside they had the footage, and the outside like during nighttime, they had like a. I think it was. I don't know if it's like it's not fireworks, but it was like they had like an LED kind of thing where basically a giant Galactus. That was the man. It was the giant purple man Galactus. Like his head emerged from like the back of the convention center.
Oh,
and then
that's cool.
And then you can probably find online somewhere too, like YouTube or somewhere. Then it turned into the Human Torch making the four in the sky, just like the Tim Story Fantastic Four.
Oh, nice.
And it was awesome. It was done like they projected it somehow, and it looked amazing.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so something tangentially connected to the Fantastic Four, which leads to our big news. So
we also got the title really quick.
Oh yes, you're right. So hit him with the title, Tiki.
Let's see. The title is Fantastic Four: First Steps.
There we go.
Which I don't know. It's fine. I think maybe First Family would be more appropriate.
That's man, why you gotta bring? Now you're right. That's a better title. Now we gotta write Feige.
I'm just saying.
No, you're right. I don't know why they didn't. That's a good point. They should have called it First Family. Darn it.
Fantastic Four: The First Family. I don't know.
Well, then I guess. Well, you know what? They probably didn't call it that because you're gonna have the whole First Avenger thing, where Cap absolutely is the First Avenger. Then we have like Carol Danvers the factor in. It's a whole thing. It's like who's technically the first? Well, Hawkeye's the First Family. That doesn't.
Well, no, I mean, like just by logic, these guys are in the '60s and they are a family unit.
But they're in a multiverse though, so they're not the First Family. That's the problem.
Okay, but if you go by timeline, I don't know.
But you see what I mean, though? There's going to be all this debate. So that's probably why. Thinking about it now, that's probably why they didn't go with the no-brainer that is First Family. They want first anyway. The point being, though, they can't just use Fantastic Four because we've already done that 3 times. I mean, we just can't keep just like putting like a year in parentheses. They give an actual title.
And I think just calling it like Marvel Studios Fantastic Four would pretty much yield the same thing.
The only thing they would really have left is just calling it FF or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but what is the tangential news?
Okay, so in addition to so they covered the next three movies and then the broad spectrum. So they talked about Captain America, Brave New World. They talked about Thunderbolts. They talked about Fantastic Four, and then they announced officially we had 2 big bits of news here. So Avengers 5 and 6 were confirmed. They were reconfirmed, and we got a year on them. So Avengers 5 is May 2026. Avengers 6 is May 2027. The Russos are indeed returning to direct them. So that was the first announcement. Like the Russos are back.
I'm not exactly stoked on that just because of their post-Endgame output, I've got to say.
Well, then they didn't do any of that, though.
What do you mean they didn't do any of that?
Well, no, the Russos, they left after Endgame, Tiki.
No, I'm saying like the Russo brothers basically went on to have a very illustrious career directing mediocre action movies for
Netflix. Okay. Oh, I thought you meant literally like, okay,
that's what
sure.
I'm talking about. That's why I'm not exactly stoked. Like, all right, the guys who are doing, they did fucking Marley and Me before this. Or I'm sorry, not Marley and Me. You, Me, and Dupree. Marley and Me at least made me feel things. So we got the Marley and Me guys who somehow lucked into an awesome spy thriller, a really good Avengers movie, and then like basically like a huge vomit of fan service that is Endgame. And now they're doing like very mediocre action movies on Netflix. I'm sorry, Dragon. Like, I'm sure they'll do a fine job. They're pretty much like the safe choice at this point. But for me, they're not the exciting choice.
Well, you gotta remember, Tiki, they are the recent mediocre output all their toys have been taken away from, but now they're getting them back, and it's a story they really want to tell. They said the only way we'd come back is to tell this story, and they've been given this story. So, look, I'm just saying, if they're going to come back for anything, this is the one. Okay, anyway, so we have titles on them. Mm-hmm. We have Doomsday being the May 2026 one, and Secret Wars being the one they're really excited to do. Now, Doomsday, no, we're not talking the Superman bad guy. No, friend. They confirmed bad guy we're getting for these two films. Dr. Doom. And let's just say Dr. Doom, familiar face under the metal.
Dragon, I'm not stoked on this. I think it just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like Dr. Doom is a character where it's like, we need like a really good official actor portraying him, and this is going to feel like a gimmick. Granted, I think if Robert Downey Jr. gives this performance the same level of intensity that he gave like his Oppenheimer performance, and he doesn't treat it like a comic book movie, we could be onto something.
Mm-hmm.
My whole thing, though, is that I don't trust that Marvel or Robert Downey Jr. is going to be able to resist the urge to essentially make Dr. Doom like evil Tony Stark. If Dr. Doom is, in fact, going to be evil Tony Stark, which might be a possibility. So I don't know, Dragon. I feel like it's frustrating to me as a fan of the comic Dr. Doom character, and as someone who's been waiting for like a definitive version of that character, and for as good of an actor as Robert Downey Jr. is, this is clearly a Paige Novak muddying the water situation, in my opinion.
All right, so here's my take on the Dr. Doom thing. So they revealed Dr. Doom will be a Tony Stark variant, and the return of Robert Downey Jr., et cetera, et cetera. Here's the thing. I think it's a fun idea, and there has always been like a link between Iron Man and Dr. Doom in the comics. When they've crossed over, it's been kind of like an epic thing. So that's why, of all things, why Tony Stark is Dr. Doom. But I do think it's a rush to get there when we haven't even introduced like our new, hopefully definitive Dr. Doom for this new Fantastic Four movie, and I think it's going to make that poor guy's job all the more harder, unless by some miracle.
Think we're actually going to get another non-RDJ Dr. Doom?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, my instinct would be, you if you're going to have a variant,
obviously Galactus is going to be the villain in this new movie, which is fine.
Yeah. This is what I'm getting at, Tiki, is that look, I'm all for like an endpoint like that being an idea, but still, there's so many things to do in the MCU, and when we do the variants, sometimes it feels like we're fast forwarding to like a cool idea, but we do need to establish things, and it feels like we don't have a sufficient amount of time to really fully explore the franchises before we do the big events. Like, I want to see what the mainline Doctor Doom is, so then I can appreciate changing it up. And if that's kind of what we ran the risk of with No Way Home, it's like now we're going to have to compete with Defoe, Norman Osborn.
Right, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So that's the risk we run with these things, but they're cool. But now that means, well, we really should either avoid it like the plague, or like now, like here's the thing: that new Spider-Man animated show, which we're going to hear more about during D23, we're getting a Norman Osborn in that, but it's going to now have to compete with Defoe Osborn. So that
Peter, I'm something of a scientist myself.
And that's also in a multiverse, which means funny. But you see what I mean, though, where it's like freshman year, it's like now that has to be set in one of the multiverses, like one of it's a variant, all these variant versions.
I'm getting sick of this multiverse shit, and I hope that we're over it by the time that Avengers 6 is wrapped.
Okay, anyway, so as far as the Doctor Doom thing goes, again, just I honestly, the theory I heard, which I would love, I think the only way to salvage this, the Doctor Doom thing personally would be the rumors Cillian Murphy was like the front runner for Doctor. At least a lot of people, myself included, I would be down for Cillian Murphy as is
I would
Doctor Doom.
absolutely be down for him.
And
Yeah.
now that's a way you save it. Like, how do we get an actor who's going to be as good as like our Tony Stark, Doctor Doom? Well, let's get Cillian Murphy in there, and then we have the Oppenheimer level on it.
I don't
Let's
know,
do that.
Dragon. I'm still. I just think that the MCU's version of Doctor Doom is just going to be multiverse Tony Stark. I don't think we're getting another one, bro.
Okay, so I think you're right, and there's a very good chance that is the case. Which, yeah, it'd be a bit of a bummer. But let me say this though, as far as your earlier point about the whole performance angle, I do really think Downey Jr. is going to play this like an Oppenheimer. I think he's going to play Doctor Doom seriously.
I just hope that the writers, like, having him, like, the MCU, obviously, like, Tony Stark on a lot of levels was, like, the character that started the whole, like, oh, we're going to quip every time that we have a line of dialogue.
Well, I think people have brought up the solution of, well, movie 5, Doctor Doom, very much primary role. But now, look, I want to be clear. I don't think the Russos are going to like, hey, let's just do the Thanos thing again from Infinity War and make it all about Doctor Doom. I mean, that'd be interesting. Tiki and Dragon, remember, well, you and I, we did an extensive pitch on like what our Fantastic Four movie would be. My pitch was essentially Doctor Doom is the main character. Mm-hmm. So I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't be interested in that, especially if we have Downey Jr. playing a Doctor Doom. That said, it does make sense with the money that they're paying Downey Jr. I can't take credit for this observation. Mark Bernard made this really good point that for the money they're paying Robert Downey Jr., which is a king's ransom, like 10 king's ransoms,
which is honestly kind of ridiculous at this point, given where the economy is.
True, it does make you wonder.
It's very much a rich getting richer kind of situation at this point.
I mean, like, come on, Robert. The A wasn't enough for you. You have the giant A in like an airplane hangar somewhere. Really, you couldn't?
No, I think at this point he just owns the entire Avengers Tower.
Yep. But that's the thing. It just feels like that's us covering our bases where we have him mainly as Doctor Doom in 5, and then 6 is when we bring back Tony Stark. So that's how we get our equipage in there, or at least the multiverse of like not the dead Tony Stark, but the other Tony Starks.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you get your Tony Stark and you have your Doctor Dooms, and not neither
we need
between.
To see Tom Cruise Tony Stark at some point.
You know, people have been there.
I feel like not to give any of the cameos away in case people haven't seen it yet. Granted, I'd be surprised if anyone hasn't, but some of the cameos in Deadpool and Wolverine make me think that Tom Cruise Iron Man is more likely now.
I mean, Tom Cruise. I forget who. I don't know if it's Tom Cruise or Marvel. Like they have been trying. There've been talks. It sounds like there have been talks.
I think like people were convinced he was going to be in Multiverse.
Well, yeah, they were. Yeah. All right. So the point being, you're right. I'm not 100% on board with it, but I'm hoping they're going to pull it off. But by the same token, though, I hate like skipping over a potentially definitive Doctor Doom for.
Yeah. That's my whole reservation on it, especially because we've shat the bed on Doctor Doom twice already. Yeah. Okay, so going into some comments here, Little Blue Dragon, he's asking if you think the Fantastic Four flying mobile was a balloon. It might be a drone. It might be like a fancy drone. What do you think?
Well, my assumption was that it was real and on wires. That was my guess, but the drone thing makes more sense. It might just be like a plastic.
Because Disney and Universal have both been really playing around with drone technology lately.
I never considered the drone thing. So the drone thing, hearing that, is looking at how it flies. I mean, I could buy it being like a hard shell exterior, like a drone, or something.
Right. Okay. Kokia says if they wanted to give a Marvel Cinematic Universe cast member to play Doctor Doom, they could have cast Mads Mikkelsen or Ben Mendelsohn.
God,
I mean, those both would have been good choices. Mads Mikkelsen in particular.
He was always my Doctor Doom. My pick.
The problem is that Mads Mikkelsen was kind of wasted in Doctor Strange. I mean, he was all right, but his character was just very forgettable. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Instead,
you're right. If we were just completely ignoring continuity and just being like, "Fuck it," different actors can play multiple characters. Why not?
I was saying, like, hey, in a world where we're doing, we can't have, two Mads Mikkelsens. We're going to get 2 Robert Downey Jr.'s.
All right.
No, it's completely
Also,
impossible.
Kogias asks, why not bring back Julian McMahon? I like Julian McMahon as an actor. I just don't really think that. I mean, obviously, I feel like Van Forstick just botched Doctor Doom, just wholesale. I feel like Tim Story, Fantastic Four, the problem with him is that they just didn't take the character seriously enough. I think Julian McMahon is a decent enough actor. I just think the material they gave him wasn't great.
I concur with that, but also the other thing to factor in again, the whole world of like we have like all these we have Blade going on with Mahershala Ali, and we have like again two Robert Downey Jr.'s. I can't say this is a firm point, but he was in Runaways.
True.
They brought him into now they're folded everything in. So let's just say in my head canon it was always there, but now they're saying it seems they've always been there. The Runaways, again, if that was like the MCU's introduction for things, that's how we got McMahon in there, and he played a pretty good character there.
All right, Little Blue, I'm not going to read the comment about Jonathan Majors playing the world's smallest violin because, frankly, he does not deserve the attention. But yeah, that's kind of stupid that he's sad now, Dragon. Jonathan Majors is sad now.
I mean, at the very least, mine just puts the pressure on Loki. We probably have to address it at some point, but at least we have a reason for why Kang's not in there. It's like, man, Loki's doing a really good job. That's what
right.
Man, he's look at Loki holding those strings, man. Look at that.
Okay, Kogias, the Dwayne Johnson thing. That's ridiculous. That's never gonna happen.
He couldn't fit in,
but
yeah. Well, it would be hilarious if he was cast as the Thing, though.
I could see him being a Thing. I'm glad they went with the actor that they went with because he's an actual actor and not a walking billboard. But
well, more like a walking rock pile, given the name.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying The Rock is just his whole thing. It's like, look at me, guys, I'm a brand.
That's true. By the way, did you? Someone pointed this out, and I thought it was hilarious. Ryan Reynolds made fun of the Rock during his Black Adam presentation for the DC, the announcement of Black Adam way back when in the movie. He has this hilarious line, basically saying the Marvel universe is about to change. Which is basically exactly what I'm paraphrasing, which is exactly what the Rock said during his the big DC universe.
I mean, yes, it's been a while since I've watched the Tim Story versions, but there's a lot of core elements of the comic version of Doctor Doom that Tim Story just didn't do anything with. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll co-sign. I think I like the Tim Story films a lot more than the other people do. But it's we did get I think the first film got a lot of classic Fantastic Four stuff right. But by the same token, though, we took liberties.
The second movie really got Silver Surfer right, but very much did not get Galactus right. So.
Also, fun fact: Batman from Cape Crusader is in the first Fantastic Four movie.
What?
Yeah. So the Cape Crusader Batman is Hamish Linklater, and he is he plays Batman. He is Doctor Doom's assistant in that film.
All right. Well, thanks for that. Okay.
I just thought I thought it was a fun factoid, but you know what? Let's just move on.
Crusader, remind me, that's James Gunn's Batman.
No, that's the new animated Batman, Tiki, the one that's
okay. Oh God, Dragon. There's so many different Batmans. I can't keep track. No, that is cool.
That's what I'm saying. I thought it was kind of cool, because when he was announced, oh my God,
considering it is relevant. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Kogias is propping you up, Dragon. He thinks it's an interesting fact.
There you go. See?
All right. Tom Cruise. I think in order to get Tom Cruise to do it, you would have to he would have to basically be down for not being paid a lot. You know what I mean? But I feel he would be down for that. I don't know.
Well, Tom Cruise is only going to do is there a risk that I could die doing a stunt? Well, Tom,
essentially, yes.
Well, I mean, Downey Jr. injured his ankle at one time doing Iron Man 3. He's like, I'll do it. I'm in.
Oh, God.
Tag me in, coach. Show me the money. I'm in.
Okay, moving on. Trailers, Dragon. Trailers. Let's talk Cap. Brave New World. Yeah. So we're just going to write off the change in actors by way of mustache, huh? All right.
You got to admit, that was pretty funny, though.
No, it's funny. I'm just kidding. I don't know, man. This looks okay. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of worried that they might be rushing into the Red Hulk thing. Red Hulk from the little snippet we get doesn't look great as far as the CGI goes.
Well, it's just the
I'm,
foot, though.
yeah, I know. I don't know. We'll see how he actually looks when we see him more in action. I do think that there's some interesting tidbits here. Like, I'm assuming that a big part of the plot is going to be Isaiah Washington maybe getting Winter Soldiered in a way.
Is it Bradley?
Isaiah Washington is.
No, I've done the same thing. Don't worry about it. But it's Isaiah Bradley.
Okay, yeah, because we see him in the trailer, right? Like firing into a crowd. That's him, right?
Yes, we do. So actually,
so I assume that's some sort of like Hydra brainwashing shit going on with him.
Maybe, and that's the one. Okay, so that's the one thing of the trailer that does have me worried because I love that Isaiah Bradley's in this film. I'm very in, but
has me intrigued though because Isaiah Bradley is a really powerful character, and if the plot hangs on him, like it could get a lot of dramatic heft in the movie. You know what I mean? Like in the same way that Civil War had a lot of dramatic heft because that was Cap's buddy. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of optimistic about him being involved in a conspiracy sort of thing.
Well, that's the thing. If they pull it off like that, I think we're in good shape. But I just hope that it's not going to underwrite the emotional ending of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The way we did Isaiah Bradley in that story, the ending of that season is so freaking beautiful.
No, it's great. It's great.
I just don't want it to be
like I said. I feel like that gives you like instant emotional connection to that character. Yeah. You don't want to see anything bad happen to that character. So
that's true. So I just hope they're going to stick the landing on that. I believe the same writer from that. Here's the thing: the same writer, at least unless anything has changed between all the strikes and God knows what else. Malcolm Spellman, is on that movie. At least he should still be on that movie, and he's the guy who show ran Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I'm hoping that he is. I'm hoping that he's still there and he's going to do right by that character like he did in the first time. So yeah, this plot wise, it's interesting. The whole like making Captain America like an official military position, which brings back a lot of Civil War things.
They're pretty much trying to do a John Walker thing again, essentially.
Well, yeah, kind of John Walker, but also kind of the Registration Act. But like they're it's like an basically it's an upgraded version of we've established the Accords have been disbanded, but this is kind of like a loophole of like, hey, Sam, come. And we saw in Civil War, Sam Wilson was very much against. He was on Team Cap. He was against the Accords. So putting him in the position of like, hey, we want you to be an official military position here. We want Captain America to, we want a John Walker, essentially. You're right.
You know who I really don't want to pop up in this movie, Dragon?
Who?
I really don't want Rhodey in this movie.
I don't. That's the thing. I don't think he's going to be in this. He's probably he's going to be busy with Armor Wars. It feels like, assuming that is still happening.
I'm just saying, Secret Invasion fucked with the Rhodey character so hard.
It did.
That, like, man, any involvement that he has in this is just going to raise more questions than it's worth. You know what I mean?
Assumedly, Bruce Banner might pop up. Assumedly, but we don't know.
I would like to see. I mean, I've been saying this since Deadpool and Wolverine, and we kind of got it, but not really. But Bruce Banner needs an image rehabilitation in the MCU, Dragon. We need a big Bruce Banner moment again. I'm waiting for it.
I mean, honestly, the big question here is: are we going to have a good reason for why Ross turns into the Red Hulk? That's the real question. That's the trouble. The Red Hulk character, I think, has always had. Like, do we have a good reason for him to turn into a Red Hulk? Now, looking at the trailer again, two things have jumped out to me. One, they did a recut of the trailer. I don't know if you heard about this. Since recent political events, they actually it's so funny. I rewatched Deadpool and Wolverine today, and the theater I went to, it's kind of an old, it's not like an AMC. They had the original trailer that was unaltered, so you saw Isaiah Bradley like shooting at Ross. Now, as you can imagine, they've altered the trailer, so basically he's chucking a table at somebody instead of shooting at the president.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of them doing some damage control there. I wonder if it's going to make it into the final film, though. I hope it's still going to be in the movie, and they just cut it out for like a recency kind of thing. I just hope like they're not going to we're going to mess with the movie now. But
Okay. John Kelling is in the comments. He has a very amusing observation. He says Marvel Studios are cowards for not allowing Red Hulk to have a mustache.
Hmm.
Do we know who Giancarlo's playing?
Yeah. Well, I believe they confirmed it at the if the
Or do I
reports are true.
care? Is the bigger question.
Well,
Dragon, let me ask you one thing. Is he a big bad corporate boss man?
he's not a big bad corporate boss man. If the reports I heard from Comic-Con are true, which it sounds like is like something they said at the panel, so I'm pretty sure it's true. Then again, they could be saying it to throw people off the scent, so I don't know. Assuming it's true, it sounds like he's the leader of the Serpent Society, which was the fake Captain America movie they were going to do for.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that's a lot. Here's the
John Kelly is saying Sidewinder.
Yeah, that's him. That side.
Yeah,
that's
I know
Sidewinder
Sidewinder is a snake. Okay.
Yeah, that's him. So that's what they said.
I'd be down for that, honestly. That's cool. It is still kind of in the camp of like he's playing the leader of some sort of nefarious mob style organization.
But he's getting his hands dirty, man. He's not he's not the businessman in this one.
Fair enough.
Here's the thing. Basically, the three roles everyone thought Giancarlo was playing was now we've confirmed it's the Serpent. No one expected the King of the Serpent Society. Which is kind of like a nod to Civil War. They initially, before they revealed the title Civil War.
Honestly think that's cool because it kind of gives Serpent Society the because like when Serpent Society was announced, is like Civil War comes up, it's like, oh fuck yeah, that's way better. So it's like give Serpent Society its due. I honestly kind of felt bad for the writers that came up with Serpent Society.
Yeah. So the other ones were everyone assumed he was playing George Washington Bridge. Sorry, that's his full GW Bridge. He's always playing the Shield agent GW Bridge.
Or Bushman.
And the other one was Machine Man. Which would have been really cool if he was actually Machine Man, but anyway.
All right, so let's go to another trailer. We've got Agatha All Along. Dragon, I don't know. I'm not really into this, I've got to admit. I think this just kind of came out too late. We'll see. Here's the thing is I'm definitely going to give the first 2 episodes a shot. If I'm not feeling it, man, this might be another one where I just don't finish it. I don't know. Like, because it feels like this could be really hit or miss, especially given the current Disney Plus TV show track record. I'm still very jaded by Secret Invasion, Dragon. I'm still traumatized by Secret Invasion. So I don't know. What do you think? Are you a little bit more optimistic about it than I? I mean, obviously, Catherine Hahn looks like she's having a fun time. It's just everything else is kind of, she's got like this band of quirky mystery, like Scooby-Doo kind of characters with her. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like, I almost feel like Agatha should be a one-shot more than she should be a show. You know what I mean?
So I got a bad feeling about it. Unless, here's the thing, unless the gimmick is, we're tying it into kind of the supernatural side of Marvel, like basically we're doing like we're kind of somewhat tying it into the Werewolf by Night kind of horror kind of side of things.
Right.
With the witches of it all, which it seems to be the best case, that's what they're doing. But then again, even with that in mind, it feeds into what you're saying with, it should be a one shot, but they're doing it as a show. So I'm more, honestly, my fear, it's going to be the Acolyte for the MCU.
Oh God! That hurts. I never even bothered with the Acolyte. Did you try with the Acolyte?
I didn't, Tiki. It was just that bad. I just didn't care.
Same.
So my fear is that it's going to end up being. I think it being released in Halloween gives me hopes that it's going to be kind of like the Werewolf by Night thing I'm hoping for. But it's still like we seemingly killed the Scarlet Witch. We get the tie-in. It just seems like it's going to be.
The show is basically like a backdoor to get Wanda into the MCU. That's fine, but again, what's the point of like? I feel like you would be able to do a way more effective version of that as a one shot.
I don't think that's bringing her back. I think that's just going to be like, hey, look, we killed her off unceremoniously so Agatha can get free of the hex. That's what I think happened, which I don't like that. But yeah, I'm worried. Like after 2 episodes,
Yeah, like I
it's not
said,
gonna.
Little Blue, I'm gonna give the first 2 episodes a shot, but if I'm not feeling it, I'm definitely not gonna pursue
I'm
it.
just saying this is the first time I've been this turned off to an MCU show, so that's what's worried. That's what's concerning to me.
Uh-huh.
Where I mean, I'm not. There's no sell for me at all there. Where it's like, oh well, that's
Yeah, John Kelling for me with Star Wars, I'm basically living for Andor, and that's about it. Everything else, I'm just so phased out on.
all right.
Okay, let's see. So next up, we have Creature Commandos. Yeah, this looks like fun.
Yeah,
The animation style looks all right. It doesn't look like anything mind blowing, but definitely seems like it's got the James Gunn humor going on.
yeah. So this is kind of our Suicide Squad spinoff, which I wasn't 100% sure if we were gonna like do a full connecting to the Suicide Squad thing, but we
No, it looks like it's very connected to
No,
the
no, it
Suicide
is. It is.
Squad.
That's what I mean. So basically,
Yeah.
what we're doing here, Tiki, is this is basically directly after the first season of Peacemaker, because Amanda
Mhm.
Waller gets out in Peacemaker. So that's kind of the premise of like legally she can't use like humans for the Suicide Squad, so she's using it's the non-human loophole. They're all monsters and not human, so she can do it basically a
So
horror
it's
movie
basically
for
the Fox Kids loophole.
yeah, pretty much
I
yeah.
love it.
So I mean that's a great idea, like the whole like Task Force M for monsters. They have
Mhm.
great designs. This is going to be a big deal, Tiki. This is the first. This is under the. We've now wrapped up, and we'll get into this when we get to the new movies. We've wrapped up the DC animated stuff. So this is the first DC animated project they're doing under James Gunn's kind of like approval. It's
Sure,
basically
sure.
the stuff like he's basically right now. The plan is with I think with a few like side like they're doing this Watchmen thing, which doesn't really count. But the fact is like
Watchmen's
aside
always
from
kind of existed in its own kind of corner universe. Yeah.
that's what I mean. Aside from like a few projects that might have like lingered that were far removed from like the Tomorrowverse Butch Lukic kind of movies they were doing, all the movies, all the mainline stuff coming out now is basically James Gunn doing animated stuff that would tie into the movies and the games and stuff under his under his big plan. So this is the first taste of like this thing is like the first taste of what the James Gunn DC universe is going to be, and it comes out in December. It's like the first official thing that we're getting. So this is going to be kind
Yep.
of it's a litmus test. You
For
know,
sure. For
got a
sure.
great cast too. We have like David Harbour. We got everyone in this.
All right. Waller's pushing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Kate. John Kelling says, "I feel like Dr. Phosphorus is a big stretch since that dude should still count as a human."
But he's like a walking skeleton though. Now, I don't know. I don't know. It's fair point. But then again, she's breaking. Yeah, you're right. Waller. That's why he says Waller's pushing it. Waller's pushing it for
Amanda
sure.
Waller bending the rules, John Kelling?
Come on.
So out of character.
Yeah, get out of here.
All right. And finally, we have one for me. We have three for you and one for me, Dragon. We have the James Mangold directed, Timothy Chalamet starring Bob Dylan biopic, A Complete Unknown. And this is definitely a teaser. We basically we don't even really get a lot of shots of his face in full profile. We basically just get like some side shots of him singing, some reaction shots of him falling in love. And one spoken line right at the very end that doesn't really tell you much about how Timothy's gonna do this performance. Because the thing with Bob Dylan, Dragon, is that Bob Dylan just has such a weird, unique speaking and singing voice, and they both are very much like on different wavelengths with each other. So this is going to be a complicated performance for Timothy Chalamet. I dare I say this is probably going to be Timothy like the most pressure that Timothy Chalamet has ever had for a performance, because Bob Dylan is just an iconic figure. He's had like multiple big documentaries made about him. Scorsese made like a 3-hour documentary about him like 15 years ago. So I will say that just Timothy Chalamet just visually does look like a young Bob Dylan. Like even outside of the makeup, I think he's got just that vibe with the curly hair and the kind of like soft-spoken sort of quality to him. I'm excited. This is definitely one of my more anticipated movies of the year. Bob Dylan is certainly up there for me as far as like musical icons. Like his, I mean, the dude is like kind of like a godfather of modern folk music in a lot of ways, and folk music is one of my favorite genres. So I very much cut my teeth of my music listening taste on Bob Dylan. He's got a very storied life. I imagine that this is going to cover mostly the 60s stuff. I don't imagine that this is going to go much past the 60s, but Dragon is someone who I imagine is much more just tangentially familiar with like Bob Dylan through pop culture osmosis. How do you feel about this project?
Well, Mangold's a good choice considering the whole walk the line thing that, he did
Mhm.
walk the line. So, I mean, if you're going to get anyone to do that biopic, I guess it makes sense. It's less of a risk than, like Disney breathing down his neck on Indiana Jones. So, that's good.
He was a good choice for Indiana Jones.
But,
It just didn't work out.
This the studio. I really think the studio messed with him on that
Yeah,
one.
I agree.
Mangold's a class act. He's never going to say that, but I think that's absolutely what happened.
So you're saying that that Mangold is not Josh Trank?
Pretty much.
Right.
I just feel like poor Mangold, just like he's sitting in his chair, and then you have like someone like Kathleen Kennedy or someone just like
Imagine James Mangold is like very emotionally hung up on me in particular, not really feeling Ford v Ferrari.
Oh man, that weird kid. He didn't, he didn't like it. Everyone liked Ford versus Ferrari. He's like the one who didn't like it. Why didn't he like it? I gotta direct Ford harder, man.
Oh God.
Like Harrison, get on the horse. I don't care if you feel like it. Get on the horse. Faster, old man, faster.
God. All right. Anyways.
What? You're gonna break your leg on the Falcon? You can't break your leg on the horse?
But what do you think of just the trailer, like how it kind of like the whole framing of like basically the movie kind of looks like the building of the modern myth that is Bob Dylan?
Sure.
I don't know. I'm definitely excited about it.
Okay.
All right. So moving on, folks, we've gotten past the news. It's time to talk about the actual July 2024 movies. Deadpool and Wolverine. Dragon, I will throw it to you. But Dragon, I'm just going to ask you this, all right? I'm going to ask you this. Do you think there's any possibility that any movie that comes out for the rest of the year is going to be able to top this for you?
Oh, gee. No.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I assumed.
No, I really don't. I'd be shocked if Beetlejuice is gonna like do a number on this one, but yeah. So this was easily the movie I was most hyped for this year. I loved every second of it. Only gripe I have is the villain, is Cassandra Nova, and here's the thing, mainly it's less her as a villain, it's just more of like how she's a threat in Act 3 after we kind of put an end to her story. Because I mean, I think we have a really good resolution for her, and then like, yeah, we need threat, we need menace, we need like some bad's gonna.
Like her and Tom Wamsgams kind of like compete for the main villain role, and that's a little awkward.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Here's the thing, though. Okay, here's why I'm not bothered by it. Okay, the Deadpool movies have never been about having amazing villains anyway, because that it's the anti-hero principle, where it's we've had like just generic, oddly all villains British, all of them essentially English, which is kind of funny how that worked out. But that's the thing. I mean, like Francis is exactly what he need to be. He just need to be kind of forgettable torturer, and we gave him a British accent. That's the most memorable thing about him, So there's really, they don't need to be super impressive. What bothers me, the only thing that bothers me is the fact of like we had a really good out for her, and then like, hey, she comes back, she follows him back just to stir stuff up. That's literally the only gripe I have with this movie, and it just again it doesn't hurt the movie at all. So this made the most of the reunion of Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. It's the win that the MCU desperately, and I want to reemphasize, desperately needed. As I've said, like a broken record, this movie and Daredevil Born Again, if they succeed, the MCU, I think, can pull off the Secret Wars maybe. I think, they'll be like, okay, That's the best shot we're gonna have. We got them back on their feet now. Let's lead them to the promised land of Battle World. Let's do it. Just it's unafraid. I was impressed that it's unafraid to call out the MCU and a number of just great gags. It did right by Wolverine, which was important. I never imagined Deadpool the character would have a trilogy, and I'm so happy that we have one. I mean, it might come back for more. Who knows? I'm fingers crossed. The next big mountain to climb for Deadpool will be Deadpool and Spider-Man. If they do that, we've done everything.
I think Deadpool 4.
Yeah.
That's what the rumors are saying.
As in, like, Deadpool and Spider-Man would be Deadpool 4 is what you're saying?
No, as in, like, we need to find out why Thor was crying, Dragon.
Well, no, that's gonna be secret. There's gonna be Secret Wars.
Right. Okay, got it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, regardless, he's gonna pop up in Secret. That's what we hinted at in the movie.
Uh-huh.
He's gonna pop up there. I'm just saying, along the way or after that or what.
Yeah, you're right.
Like,
Deadpool Spider-Man would be a fun team up.
I'm saying that'll be the next like impossible thing for Deadpool. They got Wolverine out of Hugh Jackman out of retirement. It'll be like Deadpool got Sony to get along. Like that'll be the huge. Imagine all the jokes he can make about Sony. It'd be great.
Right, so I liked Deadpool and Wolverine. It's probably my favorite of the 3 Deadpool movies, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, probably. Just because I feel like Hugh Jackman adds a lot to it, as does the bigger budget. I'm not like in love with it the same way you are, because obviously you have much more emotional stake in the character than I do. But I think that basically Dragon, for being like a multiverse jumping cameo fest, I think this movie essentially worked on every level that we all wanted Multiverse of Madness to work on. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Where, like, I feel like this is very much the movie where the fan service didn't feel like, all right, you know what? You want John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic? Fine, we'll give you him for like 3 seconds. No, the fan stuff that is in this movie is very valid and very, like, I think it's awesome just being kind of like, because you and me are both people that, we are part of the generation that way before the MCU, we had to go through the growing pains of the Marvel Fox movies, and this movie is very much just a giant love letter to that. Dragon, a few things. Folks, this might be a little on the spoilery side, so just, again, I can't imagine anyone watching hasn't seen it, but just in case. Dragon, for me, Channing Tatum goddamn stole the whole movie. I mean, he really did. I just had a ball with everything that he did in this movie. I loved him. It was so great. It's especially cool because, now that I've seen X-Men 97, I kind of have like the perfect glimpse into like why people think that character is so awesome in the first place. And I feel like Channing Tatum both makes him awesome and also a big joke in the same time, and it's great. It's great.
It's more important too is the fact that he was in the same boat as Ryan Reynolds. He was promised that character. He loved that character.
I love the idea that he was born in the void. That's just such clever, like, fourth wall rule building.
Yeah.
Okay. I love all the Logan stuff. Like I said, I feel like Logan, his whole presence very much elevates the character. All the stuff they do with the yellow suit, Dragon. I didn't think I would care about the yellow suit as much as I did, but when he pulls on that cowl for the final fight, I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. Without giving away who it is, the post credits is fucking incredible.
Yep. There is a montage in the movie. And we do something that for me was a very full circle moment in my Deadpool fandom. That basically my introduction to the character was kind of represented for a mere moment. It was a mere moment.
Yes, for a moment.
So I was sad.
I was kind of hoping that would be like more of the actual movie, but yeah, we at least got it acknowledged.
And you know what? When we did it, there was actually a hilarious thing. I don't think a lot of people caught because they're laughing so hard. The way we dispatched with Deadpool and referencing a moment with Loki in the first Avengers movie. The way Deadpool is kind of killed in that moment is basically him getting killed the same way Logan did in the Logan movie, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, the opening scene where it's literally just defiling Logan's grave. That's
Uh,
priceless.
the movie Tiki, I swear to God, the Deadpool movie opening, sometimes they're just like, again, that dazzled me alone. Where to some degree it was like,
Oh, it's
okay,
perfect.
I
You know,
can
it's
I
like
can
just
go
the whole
home.
like, come on, let's not bullshit ourselves. You know
If I
that
didn't
you saw the title.
like, if I didn't need to see the yellow suit, you could have had a short film in that, and I would have still been happy. I got it in like to some degree of like, seriously, that was like every Deadpool movie has a moment that is like, okay, we're representing like a Deadpool thing that's so true to the character. And it's from the comics. In the first movie, it's like I've gone on about it. It's that moment with him like looking at Vanessa, and then two, we have the Lady Death equivalent, which is like a thing where you thought we're never going to be able to do this, and oh my god, we did it. And then this moment is like you want to see his reaction to Logan, and seeing them actually do that, and having him like defile the corpse is just like that's a Joe Kelly Deadpool move. Like, yes.
Totally. So yeah, fair to say I enjoyed the movie quite a lot. It's probably not going to be like in my top 10 or anything, maybe top 20. Definitely not like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Like, because Guardians Volume 3 just hit me like a fucking freight train. Like, I still get chills thinking about that movie. But yeah, it's a fun time. And like I said, as far as just being like a multiverse fan service cameo fest, it did it way better than Multiverse of Madness.
I mean, that's the thing. It's the best we've done the multiverse so far.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
right?
definitely,
I mean,
definitely.
like that like Loki's kind of in the middle there because Loki fixed it at the end. Loki kind of panned it out, but that
Oh
was
my
just more.
god! Speaking of Loki, you know what? One of the biggest laughs I got from just a single line is
Was him like literally like citing the episode of Loki,
yes,
right?
yes. Oh
Yeah,
my god, Elias is in this from Loki season 1,
episode 5.
I fucking cracked up.
Which, by the way, fun fact, that episode does feature, oh god, Richard, god, crap,
Richard D. Grant.
Richard D. Grant, thank you,
Oh.
Richard D. Grant, who is in The Hitman's Bodyguard with Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, there you go. There you
So
go.
again,
All
he
right.
met him playing classic Loki as well.
Sure, sure.
All right.
Okay. All right. So next up we have Twisters. If you feel it, chase it. Yeah. Dragon, this is a lot of fun. I really had a lot of fun with this. Is it a little, I wouldn't even call it disposable. I would say this is very much a throwback. I would say for me, I got out of this what I feel like a lot of people got out of Top Gun Maverick, as in it really felt like a flashback to like this is how they used to do it, you know. I really think all the tornado set pieces in this movie are just really, really well handled. They might not be as physical and as practical as the ones in the original movie, but I feel like just the sense of danger, the scale to them is even bigger. The final set piece takes place in a movie theater. There's one particular shot that just absolutely took my breath away. And Glenn Powell is just on fire, my dude. Like, Glenn Powell is just like that guy is the next movie star. Like, there's no denying it. I mean, he is just charisma for days. He is just absolutely magnetic on screen. So yeah, I had a ball with this. Honestly, Lee Isaac Chung, give this guy a Jurassic Park movie, honestly. He was the guy who directed Minari, which I liked. I didn't love. But I feel like this guy knows how to do like a big budget movie that also has characters that you actually care about, which is like the thing that Jurassic Park needs. John Kelling says Twisters is the type of movie 40X was made for. Yeah, Paragon actually went to go see Twisters in 40X Dragon, and he had a ball with it too.
Have you ever seen a movie in 40X?
What?
Have you, Tiki?
I have not.
Okay.
Have you?
No.
Yeah, I want to. I was thinking maybe Alien, the new Alien, whatever it's called. Alien Requiem? No. I'm drawing a blank on what the new Alien's called, which is bad. I'm sorry. But I digress.
It's not Romulus, right?
Yeah, Romulus. Yeah, Alien Romulus.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, so it was Romulus.
All right. Next up, we have Despicable Me 4. All right, tell me about it.
Okay, so with Despicable Me, it's like after the first two films, it it's kind of it lost the step after the first two films. But here's the thing: as you experienced with Despicable Me 3, there are entertaining aspects to it. Like the villain was a lot of fun in
I mean,
Despicable Me
Dragon, I'm a
3.
sucker for Trey Parker. All right, Trey Parker
That's
can do a lot for me when it comes to redeeming something.
basically the thing. Is Despicable Me after the second film is basically Illumination's animation, the aesthetic is pretty cool. There's a fun to be had with Despicable Me. It just doesn't have quite like the man. This movie actually has something to say, like the first movie did, or like we're still kind of in the space of the first movie with two, and four is kind of is like that. Only I don't think the villains. I don't think the villains as good as three, obviously, but it has a fun setup with the characters. The fact Gru's now a father. He's like he had a baby with Lucy, so it's kind of like Gru with like the newborn, which is kind of fun. But that's the thing. It's just it's very just like entertaining just for the it's like for animation fans. It's like, man, that's some good animation there, and that's some fun. And like, for example, my favorite scene in the movie is the honey badger heist, where basically they steal like a mascot, which is a honey badger, and that's a fun sequence. That's like everything you kind of want to see in the Despicable Me movie. Like the opening song is great. Pharrell Williams is doing his thing, doing really good at it. Non Lego form, but just doing something really good. That's the thing. It's just it's a same old plot. It's a very direct plot. Just kind of like the family needs to be put in witness protection. So there's some relocation gags. Nothing really hard funny about it. But it's like Groot, the baby is cute. I love the toys, the gadgets, and it's very harmless. It's cute. It's like I wouldn't say like you have to see Despicable Me 4. It's
I'll
like
probably catch it on Netflix.
that's what I'm saying. If it's on Netflix or you can
Yeah.
stream, it's like give it a whirl. Will Ferrell's in it. He's pretty funny, but
All right, fair enough.
All right.
Okay, next up we have Longlegs Dragon. This is the movie that Peregrine loves, and honestly, I kind of hated it.
All right.
And it is that's kind of the reaction it's having. Like it's very much a love or hate kind of movie. I don't even know how to describe it, man. For me, it was very derivative of like something like Seven, where it's like a serial killer investigation movie. Nicolas Cage plays the serial killer, and honestly, he gives a creepy performance. Like the look of him in the movie is very scary. But like Nicolas Cage is such a high profile actor specifically for playing these kind of like over the top crazy roles, and like I wasn't scared of him. And a lot of people were. It worked for a lot of people. It did not work for me. I could not take him seriously. There's an interrogation scene that basically feels straight out of like, hey, we haven't mined everything that we can mine out of the Dark Knight interrogation scene yet. Let's just do that again. And Dragon Nicolas Cage starts singing like the Marilyn Monroe "Happy Birthday, Mr. President." And why? Because he's crazy. And at that point, I checked out. The movie also has like weird supernatural elements to it that aren't really well explained. People are like, oh, but you got to dive into it, man. It's all under. No, I mean, there's movies like The Shining where it's not all well explained, but you can. But this movie literally wants you to like basically do like an Easter egg hunt in order to figure out what's actually the fuck going on with it. So I was bored shitless, Dragon. I really was. I'm not gonna lie. I was struggling to stay awake for this one. Which is not the experience that I was expecting to have, because my God, the weekend that this thing came out, Dragon, I was expecting another Hereditary. Like I kept hearing like it's one of the scariest things ever. And it's not. It's just not. The imagery isn't that scary. Nicolas Cage is hard to take seriously. I know that I'm not like I'm not even sure if I'm in the minority on this or not, because I know that there's other people that feel the same way that I feel about it, but I also know that like at least as far as like the film, like the hardcore film community goes, I think I am in the minority on it. So I don't know. It's just a very polarizing movie, and I did not like it. So yeah. All right. Next up, Dragon. What do you have?
Should we say John Kelling's comment real quick?
Oh yeah, sure. He's saying, gotta go. Take care, guys. Have a wonderful night. Why was Thor crying? All right. Nice to see you, John. Have a good one.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So moving on to the next one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Beverly Hills Cop. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Sorry. Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3. Okay, so let me. Okay, this is where I get a little ranty, folks. So this was an improvement over Part 2. Ties things together better with the multiverse story. I feel like there's an attempt to kind of we get back on track with the story. Basically in the three parts. Because again, this is rounding out the Tomorrowverse. For the last time, we're closing the book on it before James Gunn takes the reins. And the first part was very solid. The second part was just kind of boring, and it just kind of like it was kind of a slog to get through. And this part, I think we're like we're the way we're segmenting it. I can kind of see like we are building to something, like we're kind of going through, like we're kind of erasing the worlds as we're building to like the last stand and where it's going. So like that tracks. It feels like it goes on a little bit long. A big problem with it is the Anti-Monitor looks really lame. He looks like the cover of that Queen album.
God.
Like, you remember that Queen album, right, with the robot on it?
Yes.
The one that Stewie's terrified of in Family Guy, that one?
Uh-huh.
That's what he looks like. That's what they made the Anti-Monitor look like, and it was a bad idea. Instead of like giving him this cool design from the comics where it looked like just some weird like monster-looking thing. Anyway, so basically it's like they're all trying to stop that thing, so that kind of gets a little old there. We have to stop the giant boring-looking robot. That's kind of our third act in this. And it doesn't help that all the Supergirl stuff, it's remarkably similar to the core elements of My Adventures with Superman season 2. So like that kind of took the wind out of the movie sales. Where man, they did it so much better.
Funny.
They did it so much better in that show compared to how this movie's doing it. And Supergirl has a very big role in this movie, so that's not helping at all. Jensen Ackles, Batman, of course, he's very well cast. He has some good Batman moments in this movie, but just considering what this movie is supposed to be, it doesn't feel worthy of like what we queued up with this casting with Batman Long Halloween, where that was like an amazing introduction and promise, like this is the Batman we're gonna get. And it just feels like we didn't really do enough with him until like this movie, where it's like, man, we gave him a couple of really good scenes that are track with him, and then like we're at it, we don't have runtime enough for Batman.
Yeah.
Two things. I'll kind of wrap it up here. So Corey Stoll, we cast him as a variant of Lex Luthor, an Elseworlds version of Lex, and he's really great. And it makes you wonder. Again, I've been saying this for years with House of Cards, and with Ant-Man, the Ant-Man movies, at least the first Ant-Man movie. I mean, Corey Stoll is very much kind of like if we had a more tame Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, I could see that.
That's what I'm saying, because there's a lot because again, they worked together on the first season of like House of Cards and the first 2 seasons of House of Cards, and with that, he's very much, you kind of see some similar
kind of energy to him.
Yeah, he's got the similar energy, but again, Les Corso is a really good actor, and I think if you wanted to cast Alex in live action, I mean, he's also he's a good pick. He would be a good pick. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so here's my rant. Okay, so a lot of people are watching this movie because it's the last appearance. It's Kevin Conroy's last recorded line as Batman. It's the last Kevin Conroy we're ever going to get. And the scene is like a brief scene. It's like one scene. It's like about 2 minutes. Kevin probably less than 2 minutes, but Kevin Conroy. It's Batman animated like he is in Batman the Animated. It's like Tiki. They brought it back to the very beginning. It's Batman and the Joker fighting each other one last time, and they recreated the old animation style as much as they could without going full cell animation. And I appreciate that, and I loved it. And Conroy is fantastic. He gave him a really good line that'll bring a tear to the eyes, like a finality of Batman line. It's not like Suicide Squad kills the Justice League, where we have, and we're going to kill an evil Batman, which is not what I want the last Conroy to be. We
Oh
don't do that
God.
at all here. That's what they did in that Suicide Squad game, where it's like Batman went bad, so now and we're going to have to kill him, and it's going to make you feel all sorts of like weird. But here, it's a perfect send-off for him. But here's the problem. While that's perfect and done flawlessly, they teed up. They promised, like, hey, not only is this the last Kevin Conroy Batman, this is the last time we're going to hear the Mark Hamill Joker with him, because he won't do it without Kevin Conroy, because they're a package deal. I think that's really unique. That's really sweet. That's a way to close the loop. Here's the problem. The credits lied, Tiki. Warner Brothers lied. That's not Mark Hamill. And that insults me. And I know I'm going to sound like the Uber fanboy. I get that. Okay, but this is a disservice to Conroy's memory. This is a disservice to Batman the Animated Series. It's false advertising. The theory is they either use like a different actor, like Jason Spizak, who's in the movie, and they falsely credit him as Mark Hamill, or it's AI. It is possibly AI Mark Hamill, which is the only technicality, in a legal sense, the only way they could actually.
How do you not know for sure?
Well, that's the thing. They credited him as Mark Hamill, but that is not Mark Hamill's voice.
Okay, yeah, but what I'm saying is that like Mark Hamill's getting older, Dragon. How do you not know for sure that
he did like the recent the game, like the multiverse, the multiverses game,
okay,
and you could hear him.
All right,
Tiki, I will bet you all. I'll bet you not King Midas' silver. I will bet you King Midas' gold on this. Okay, I can guarantee you that is not Mark Hamill. If you watch that clip, you will see that is not Mark Hamill. The point being, it's very sketchy that they would credit him when that is not him.
I mean, to be fair, it is Warner Brothers.
But that's what I'm saying, though. It just left such a bad taste in my mouth with the whole thing, And it's just like the movie has some good moments to it. Like I love Superman and Lois have a really sweet moment where it's like it's kind of paralleling a reboot to how Jor-El saved Superman's life in the origin, which is it's a really good piece of writing. And yet again, it's like just I don't know. I hate what they did with that Mark Hamill false advertising. I hate it. But yeah, so the point being, the movie didn't end on like the solid, we end on like the big payoff to what all these movies were building to, and we kind of rushed it because James Gunn was taking over. So I'm not thrilled with it. So it was, it left a bad taste in the mouth.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Maxine, this is I feel like this is a movie where people just really just shat on it pretty hard, and I liked it quite a lot. I don't know. Honestly, I would probably have to rewatch X to really it's definitely not better than Pearl. I'll say that much right now. It's definitely not better than Pearl, but I think just as far as like, because X is essentially just like a really well done slasher movie. It's got a lot of interesting elements to it. It's got some memorable stuff to it. But what I like about Maxine is that I like that Maxine is like, out of the three of them, this might be like the most like character study movie out of the three of them, even more so than Pearl. Because essentially the whole thing with this movie is like, how far are you willing to go for fame? And how far are you willing to go to hold on to your chance at fame? And I feel like that's what a lot of people are missing about this movie, is that in this movie, like, they're all a lot of people are complaining of, like the fact that the Night Stalker storyline doesn't really get a proper resolution. It honestly is just kind of happening in the background. I don't mind that. I think that what resolution we do have is foreshadowed at the beginning of the movie in a really creepy way. It kind of loops back around to the themes of the whole trilogy. I like the third act, and I'm one of the only people who likes the third act. I just also think this movie has some very memorable stuff. Like there's an opening sequence which essentially starts with an audition where we have Mia Goth just absolutely killing it with the acting here. Then we have a really great kind of like tracking shot that just kind of like introduces us into this grimy like 80s world of Hollywood. Giancarlo pops up and he's actually funny, and he's just playing Maxine's agent, and he's not big bad boss man. And I thought that was delightful.
That is refreshing. That is pretty good. That's
I
good to
want to
hear.
see Giancarlo play more roles like that.
I would like to as well. I mean, look, I love the way Giancarlo plays evil businessman, but I am more than open to seeing him play anything else.
Yeah. Kevin Bacon's in it. Kevin Bacon has a very memorable villain performance.
Oh, you had Bacon villain on your movie. I had that too.
Oh my god, yeah.
Coming up, my next one has Bacon as the villain.
All right, well there you go. Hey, so yeah, Maxine. Honestly, like, just given Dragon, what I wanted more in this movie is I wanted more Pearl. I was kind of hoping that because of the Bates Motel. I will say the Bates, like, don't watch this movie just for the Bates Motel stuff, because we go there like one time and it's not really like, we don't really need it. It's not really that connected to the plot, but it could have been though. And that's the disappointing thing, is that I feel like the Bates Motel stuff very much could have tied into the Pearl of it all, especially Maxine's trauma over Pearl in the first movie, in X. And we get like lip service of that, but we don't really pay it off. I wanted Pearl to be like a full-on like specter in this movie, kind of like haunting Maxine throughout the whole thing. And instead she just kind of pops up a couple times. So that kind of disappointed me. So out of the trilogy, this is probably the weakest of the three, but I still think it's damn good. I would still give it like a solid 8 out of 10. I think it's got a lot of really memorable stuff. The soundtrack kicks ass. I think the final shot is incredible, mixed with the song choice that they use. The fade into the credits is great. This movie really did it for me, man. I don't know. I feel like people are being too hard on it just because it's not Pearl and X. But to me, the whole appeal of this trilogy is that all the movies are very different from each other. So yeah. All right. Okay. So yeah, tell me about your Kevin Bacon villain, Dragon.
Yeah, so let me tell you about now. There's some action, I'm sure, this time. Let me tell you about Beverly Hill Cops Axel F. So this was, I think it was a more solid sequel than Coming to America, the sequel.
I would hope so. I would hope so. Because that's what Coming to America is, essentially the thing where it's like, I have no interest in watching this.
Yeah, well, I mean, the interest is like, hey, it's Eddie Murphy reunited with,
I'm just sick of nostalgia sequels, too. I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like they rarely turn out good.
I mean, here's the thing. Even with the nostalgia sequel aspect, I mean, the big sell is like Eddie Murphy kind of coming back, man. It's been a while since we've gotten Eddie Murphy doing stuff. So it's just, there's kind of a fun to be had there. And this movie definitely has that going for it, where it's like, you get a sense, it's Eddie Murphy back in the saddle. We're bringing back his old buddies. It's, there's not a, I'm really tired of the plot point that we have in this movie, where I'm so tired of the absentee dad trope, because we always have to, it's like a thing of like, okay, we want to give Axel a daughter, but we don't want to just have him in suburbia at the start. So how do we do it? Well, he's still a cop and she's like a lawyer, and she's, it's not crazy about it, just the whole thing of like, we have to have a reason for them to be estranged and come together, versus just, it just makes it look like, man, we made Axel Foley a really bad parent, and this is why we always do that, because it has to make our main character look like a jerk.
Sure.
So we did that yet again. Anyway, Kevin Bacon's the bad guy. he's the dirty cop who you kind of tell, like, well, we have Kevin Bacon. That's star power there. I don't think he's just going to play.
No, I mean, that's pretty much Kevin Bacon's role in Maxine. Yeah.
Well, to put it in a somewhat crude, to paraphrase a crude line from Deadpool to some degree, he's not truthful Timmy, the BJ Queen. He's not. It's not going to be, like, hey, we have Kevin Bacon. He's playing a swell guy.
Right.
Again,
if you want to talk about Kevin Bacon playing a bad guy, you need to fucking see Cop Car, my guy. You need to see Cop Car.
Yeah.
I keep telling you, see it before Wolves comes out.
Remind me, you did see the movie Super, right?
I don't think I have, actually.
Yeah, Kevin Bacon's the bad guy in that too. That's a James Gunn Kevin Bacon.
I know I need to see Super. That is on my list. I know. Yeah. I was hesitant about it because I really don't like Kick-Ass.
Well, let me put it this way: it's not Kick-Ass. It's
I feel like Kick-Ass just tonally was like all the fuck over the place. That's what
let me put it this way: this is very much in the James Gunn tone, but it's like grounded. It's like pre-Marvel James Gunn. This is like anyway, it's like Slither James Gunn, but with the superhero.
Right.
Well, again, more like a vigilante than a superhero. That's the thing. Anyway. So, okay. Point being, actually, I mean, look, I'd say it's worth checking out if you just want to like kill some time. It's like, yeah, look, I'm not going to sing the praises. It's just Eddie Murphy kind of having some fun with it.
All right, fair enough.
That's all it really is. Also has Joe Gordon-Levitt in it.
Well, that's nice. That's nice.
Of course, give him all that Muppet money.
All right, so next up we have a little Irish horror movie called Oddity. And Dragon, this is another one where after Long Legs, I was hearing the hype like, oh my God, it's one of the scariest movies ever.
Bagora, it's so scary.
And you know what? This one did, like, I wouldn't call it one of the scariest movies ever by any means. But I will say, Dragon, as someone who is pretty desensitized to horror movies, this is like one of the first times that a horror movie has actually got to me in a while, where there were a few moments, a few good solid jump scares where it freaked me the hell out. Essentially, Dragon, it's hard to actually like, there's a lot of moving parts to this plot, but at the same time, it's almost kind of a bottle episode of a movie where it takes place in a house. It's just the actual mechanics of what's going on are complicated. But let's just say it involves the supernatural element of this movie is a full-size, like mannequin-sized, essentially like wooden voodoo doll man, right? And he doesn't come alive. He's just sitting at a table. He's like a very disturbing gift that this couple got from somebody, and they like don't know what to do with it. And there's this Hitchcockian tension, Dragon, where it's like, okay, what is this thing going to do? Obviously, this thing is super nefarious. It's going to scare the shit out of us at some point. There's that kind of like Hitchcockian, like, the bomb philosophy where it's like, it's scarier just seeing this thing looming in the background of all these shots. And make no mistake, I mean, this thing is a horrifying design. I mean, it's like the Aliens in Signs levels of just disturbing to actually look at, right? And so that kind of suspense, it's well done. It really is. I do think that this movie, like in the third act, I think it kind of goes off the rails a bit. I think there's maybe one too many twists. The character, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, actually, the character was motivated by this the whole time. Ooh. And I'm like, you know what? I feel like I would have been more immersed in this if you hadn't tried to pull off a bunch of twists. And then, not to give anything away, but when this like creepy ass mannequin voodoo doll thing actually does start to come alive, it honestly kind of reinforces the point that it's way scarier and creepier when the thing is just sitting there and you're waiting for it to do something. Because when it comes alive, it's fine, but like there's a lot of moments where you're just waiting in suspense for what's going to happen with it that are a lot more effective than the actual like third act payoffs for it. So yeah. Definitely way scarier than Long Legs though. Like out of the two of them, this for me is definitely way better than Long Legs. Like Long Legs, I honestly like Long Legs feels like a glorified Criminal Minds episode. That's what Long Legs feels like to me. All right. Next up, Dragon, tell me about My Spy, The Eternal City.
Yeah, so I gotta be honest, I just kind of stumbled into like, oh my God, they made a sequel. I mean, I vaguely remembered a trailer to it, but I completely, when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, it's on there. It's not just like, initially I thought it was like extended cut. Like, no, it's not extended cut. It's Eternal City. That's a subtitle.
Uh-huh.
But so sequel to My Spy, which of course was which is a pretty surprising pandemic hit. It's directed by Peter Siegel, who directed Tommy Boy and the first film. So of course, basically the idea Peter Siegel's is he was on Rosenbaum's podcast recently, promoting not just promoting the movies because usually they have a movie coming up. That's when kind of Rosenbaum tends to get them.
Sure.
Very nice man, very nice guy. Kind of a director's director, kind of in a sense. This guy's like a real, just like real straight shooter,
kind of a
real
journeyman director, if you will.
There you go. He's absolutely a journeyman director. Basically, the biggest hit he ever had really was Tommy Boy. Just the stars aligned, and everything worked out. And the other films he had, you can get a sense like he's putting the effort in, but they end up being Nutty Professor 2.
Oh man.
Or again, seriously, you look at Nutty Professor 2, and that's the thing. It breaks your heart. Where you know what? Nutty Professor 2, there was an attempt made. There's a lot of difficult things in that movie.
Nutty Professor 2, I mean, I you know what? I will give the same praise to Nutty Professor 2 that I give to Norbit, that the makeup work in that movie is damn impressive.
I mean, look, the biggest things are far better.
And yes, disclosure, Nutty Professor 2 definitely more palatable than Norbit. I'm not going to say it's
But
not.
I mean, also, too, like the fact that there's a lot of CG in Norbit, whereas a lot less CG in, Clumps. Anyway, so it's just the fact is, again, that movie, not good, but I can respect the effort made. And again, that movie does have a few kind of scenes that kind of get you, a few of them. Like, for example, the scene that no one ever, the brief tangent, I should assure, the scene that no one ever gives any credit to is when Sherman Klump has lost his intelligence and he's just this poor guy sitting on this fountain. I'm pretty sure
you've mentioned this scene before.
I have. I'm sure I have. But you know what I mean, though. It's that scene where the poor guy is just, he's losing every brain cell, and it's just
Dragon. This was back when movies actually had pathos, even if they were kind of disposable sequels.
And that's the thing. That's the thing no one ever gives Siegel credit for. Now, again, I want to be clear. Not really that problem in this movie. He doesn't really have that going on in this film. It's just more fun with like, hey, we've taken Batista and we're putting him in Italy. That's essentially what we're doing here. They did the far from home plot here, essentially, where it's like JJ and his adopted daughter here, the girl from the first movie. Her class is going on like she's part of the choir and they're performing. I forget if it's at the Vatican. I think it's actually at the Vatican. They're performing at the Vatican. His choir, and that's the whole thing. So he goes there, he gets wrapped up in spy shenanigans. So there's not a lot to it there in terms of plot. It's just more of like a travelogue. But hey, look how pretty Italy is. I mean, I've seen Luca.
I appreciate Italy. Italy's beautiful.
Italy is beautiful. Yes. Anyway,
Mamma Mia movies are as popular as they are.
I will say this. Here's a highlight. He's not doing all of his stuff as usual, but just every time this guy shows up, I think he makes the room a little chipper. Fula Borg. He is.
You're gonna have to remind me who that is.
Okay, do you remember Javelin from the Suicide Squad movie?
Yes.
That guy.
Okay, that guy. All right.
So he's he's very funny.
I remember him specifically for dying almost immediately. So it's not like I got that much of a feel for him as an actor.
But I'm just saying though, he's very much he's the funny guy with the foreign accent. Anyways, the point being, Fula Borg, he's friends with Nathan Fillion too, which is just in real life. That's who he was like on The Rookie and stuff. So Fula Borg, whenever he shows up, it's like, oh man, Fula Borg's really funny, naturally funny. So we kind of put him as the muscle to the overarching bad guy. But still, it was like, man, seeing Fula Borg is kind of an intimidating guy is really funny to me.
Nice.
Anyway, so again, look. I think the first film was probably more solid, more enjoyable. But this movie was enjoyable enough, but I don't think it's better than the first movie. I think the true, like the real villain of the piece, that was dumb. Like the villain mastermind reveal was kind of dumb for who it
Feels
was.
Like we're getting a lot of the lately, Dragon.
Yeah,
honestly.
It does. So it feels like it does. It's like, even if the critics don't like this guy, he's a true blue comedy guy, and you kind of respect what he's going for. But plot wise, it's like, here's the curse of poor Pete Siegel here, is that he's never going to measure up to Tommy Boy or 50 First Dates. Like, those were his biggest hits. He's never going to.
I don't like 50 First Dates. Like, yeah, you're never going to measure up to Tommy Boy, but like, I would say 50 First Dates is fine. It's never been one of my favorite Adam Sandler movies.
I'm just saying in terms of like the thing that everyone's seen, everyone talked about when it came out, and like that kind of thing. But sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is, like, this for simplicity's sake, Tommy Boy, he's never going to measure up to Tommy Boy, and again, it's just he attracts he attracts great talent, really good actors. You got Dave Bautista in this. You got Kenny Jong. You got your girl's in this. Tiki yet again. Kristen Shaw. She's
Kristen
in it.
Shaw, nice.
Yeah, she was in the first one. We brought her back this time. It's just if
is
only
she the choir
right...
teacher?
No. Well, no. She's like the guy. She's the girl in the chair.
Oh, okay.
So she goes with them.
I could see her playing a choir teacher.
Well, I think we all could.
Anyway,
but yeah, so again, if only the writing were tighter, I think this guy would be in better shape. But the writing's never there to support the ambition. That kind of shows here, so that's a shame.
Yeah. All right, and then I believe I'm on my final of the month, which is Touch. And Dragon, this is a weird one, man. I liked it a lot, though. It's like even Peregrine had never heard of it. Essentially, it's a romance movie. It's like a romance drama. And it takes place over the period of essentially it's got this framing device where it's an old man at the start during the pandemic, during that time period of late February, early March 2020, where shit is hitting the fan, but we don't know how bad it's going to hit. And I will say, Dragon, probably the best use of that sort of framing I've seen for a pandemic movie, as far as the whole idea is that framing it in that time period is supposed to emphasize the character's isolation. He's staying at this hotel and he's hanging on to being the last person who's actually not checked out of the hotel, as the evacuations are taking place and everything. But then the other side of the movie is all flashback to this love story where he worked when he was a student in London back during I believe it was World War II. I could be wrong about the war, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was World War II because there was very much an anti-Japanese sentiment. And he just happens to get a job in a Japanese restaurant in London. And Dragon, he falls head over heels for this whole Japanese family that runs this restaurant, including the daughter. And the daughter is very much it's kind of like this star-crossed lovers thing where we know that they didn't work out in the past. We know that he's looking for her in the present. But I will say the thing that really drives the movie, though, is in the past, this guy's relationship with the father, because the father is a very complex character where he's super likable in some moments. In other moments, he's very mean, very old-fashioned, definitely the type of guy that would not approve of her daughter dating someone outside of her own race, that kind of tension. But she loves this guy, and this guy is like an Icelandic fisherman, and she loves him. He loves him because he runs a sushi restaurant, and this guy knows his fish, and that's basically being a fisherman is essentially what got him the job in the first place. So there's this really nice kind of push and pull dynamic there in the flashbacks. I feel like the present day stuff with the 2020 stuff is very poignant, very well shot. The ending is very cathartic. I really like this movie a lot, and nobody is talking about it. Absolutely nobody. I would actually kind of recommend it if you're just looking for a thoughtful human drama, which I know is not really your thing, Dragon, but I think it's more your thing than a horror movie, for example. So I don't know. Not a strong recommend for you, but I liked it a lot. And it really surprised me. It's one of those movies I'll have a couple of these movies every year where I go into them almost exclusively just because my grandma wants to go to the movies, right? She wants to spend some time with me. And I'm like, all right, let's see what's playing. What's this Touch movie about? Let's see. Yeah, sure. Why not? And yeah, I end up really liking it. I would give this, it's probably not my favorite movie of the month, but it's still a solid, probably a solid 8 out of 10, honestly. I really thought the directing was on point. The sense of time and place and the flashbacks felt really authentic. Very much enjoyed this one, man. You know what it feels like? It feels like the past lives of this year. And Past Lives got a lot of attention when it came out. So it's just like, and granted, I don't think it's going to be a classic in the same way that Past Lives is probably going to be a classic of the, of the human relationship drama category. But I still think it's really good for what it's worth. So yeah, Touch. Look it out, people. Seek it out if you're interested in that kind of like, if you're feeling a human drama. Okay, next up, Dragon, let's go into our TV. So Cobra Kai Season 6, Part 1. Dragon, I think it's fair to say you and I are kind of like the only men on the internet that are still like holding on to some hope for this. Because so many people I have seen are like, yeah, this is easily the worst stretch of Cobra Kai episodes ever. And I'm like, guys, it's literally just the first part of the season. Like, this is literally just the setup. Of course, it's not going to be as exciting as a whole season's worth of this show. I don't know, Dragon. I feel like we did a spoiler cast on this. The Johnny and Daniel stuff is getting really old. It kind of is starting to feel like a sitcom at this point with how much those two go back and forth.
Johnny.
But I do really like the seeding in the tension within the kids and the competition. I like how that all played out. I think the fight scenes continue to be really fun and kinetic. Kreese, I thought episode 2 was terrible, but I did genuinely like how we eventually get to the cliffhanger that we get. And I think it made a lot of sense. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still having fun with this show, Dragon. Am I taking it as seriously as I was in like season 2 or 3? God, no, absolutely not. But I'm still having fun with it. I'm still enjoying it. I'm still looking forward to the next batch of episodes.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not crazy about the padding with the whole Miyagi mystery filler, and
that was easily the worst part of the season for me.
Yeah. That's not great, and also the whole, I think we mistreated Kenny Payne because we have nothing to do with him, so we're just kind of like, so what
which is sad because he had like a good first couple episodes of the season, and then he literally shits the bed as a character.
Yeah, it's not great. But look, again, Johnny Lawrence, I think, is in rare form, and John Kreese overseas, like when he's teaching the kids, like that's really good. So yeah, I mean, look, I'm surprised we're at the Sekai Taikai like already by episode 5. I mean, that's something really okay. We're there already.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what the cliffhanger is going to be for the last batch of episodes.
Yeah.
Because clearly you would think we're not going to finish the tournament.
You'd imagine.
Next batch.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We've set up it's going to be almost like a race for your life, Charlie Brown. This in terms of right. That's always my go-to, by the way. I always go. It's the race for your life, Charlie Brown. Just kind of like in terms of like all the trials of like kind of like a summary, kind of like, hey, you're going, or it's a travel log. We're traveling all over the place, and
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
All right. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't really know what people were expecting out of like 5 episodes worth of setup. I really think it's unfair to say this is the worst season ever.
Of course, if Hilary Swank showed up, it would have changed everything.
All right, My Adventures with Superman Season 2. I need to catch up with it, I know, but how is it, Dragon? I'm assuming it's still really good.
I love this show. Season 1 was very much the introductory season. Had a more overarching. Sorry, Season 1 was the introductory season. Season 2 was more of an overarching plot, which was interesting in terms of like, we established the world in 1. 2 is like, we're really fielding it through Superman's arc of like, we're getting to, again, like I've said, like with Lego Batman or something like that, where it's like, how did we reach a point with these characters after decades or like 75 plus years now and getting into the 80s, now 80 plus years, of like, how the heck do we say anything new with these characters? How do you like readapt them for basically the solution is, okay, we're going to take everything that we know from their history and just kind of like bring it into the modern era in kind of a fun remixy kind of way. Mm. And that's what we're doing with Superman. We're kind of taking all the classic things with Superman, we're repackaging it in a way that is really refreshing. And This season's very much Superman's fears about how people view him. And it's the beginnings of like the descent of like people like, well, Superman, they love Superman in season 1. Season 2, it's like now like it's very season 2 is very Telltale Batman. It's very much like they will remember this. There's that Telltale game quality where Lex Luthor is in season 2 properly, and he's kind of he's dissenting the opinion on the Man of Steel, which is pretty interesting. And we introduced Supergirl in this season very memorably. I'll say that much. The best scene in the season is the elevator scene. It's an iconic, it's a new iconic kind of like Superman scene where it's basically him and Lois being adorable together. Where it's a scene where it's like, essentially it's like Lois throws herself down an elevator shaft knowing he's going to catch her, and it's like this adorable thing where Jack Quaid Superman's like, Lois, don't do it. It's like, what? You're going to throw yourself down the elevator. No, what? No. Come on. It's the sweetest, sickeningest, adorable thing you've ever seen, and you're going to love it. It's like, oh my God, that's a perfect Superman moment right there. Like, yes. It's everything you want a Superman moment right there. Like, the thing I keep saying about this show is like, on a poster is like, take notes, James Gunn. That's what you want. That's what this show is. It's the take notes, James Gunn kind of show. Anyway, your boy's in it. He's fantastic. He is remarkable. Michael Emerson.
Yeah,
plays
definitely
Brainiac.
a selling point for me to check it out.
Episode 6 is probably my favorite. We do some really great Brainiac stuff in episode 6.
Nice.
Anyway, so honestly, the way it ends, it feels like, and again, I Rohit thinks I'm crazy to some degree on this, but I think it was approved, like kind of like Cape Crusader, from what I've understand, is like these new Batman Superman shows were approved for 2 seasons. Then afterwards, it depends on how the seasons perform. And Superman's been renewed for a 3rd season. We've seen it kind of at Comic-Con, which, by the way, I want to mention that now because we didn't mention it in the news. Officially coming back for season 3, which is good. But that's the thing. Like, had they not come back for a season 3, we got some finality in this season, so that's good. They covered their bases, and there is room to grow. So, yeah, and the hope of the showrunners is, the optimistic hope was like, they've used the old adage, 6 seasons in a movie. So we'll see if they get that.
We'll see. That's
ambitious. That's what I'm saying. They set up a lot of Superman lore here, so it's possible. I don't know. Okay.
All right.
So definitely strong recommend.
Yeah. It's my mystery show, Dragon, and this is a show that you have been telling me to watch for literal years now. I've been dragging my feet on it. Finally got around to it, and it was pretty fantastic. Granted, I only saw the 1st season. I'm not caught up, but it's Only Murders in the Building.
Hey!
Yeah! All right. Finally, it's about time. Yeah, I don't know what took me so long, man. This was delightful. It really was. I mean, obviously, like Steve Martin, Martin Short, those two are just, they're legends as far as just being a duo, right? Like they've done so much together, and it's awesome to see them reunited on something this high profile. But really, it's Selena Gomez that actually really surprised me. I really feel like her character, of course, is like the glue that kind of ties a lot of the mystery together. I will say I'm curious how this show is going to go forward in a new season when, I mean, I don't know if like maybe like, don't tell me anything. I want to be surprised, but like I'm guessing that maybe like in the next season the mystery will be more directly tied to like either Steve or Martin's characters, but because I just feel like the way that they integrated her into the mystery and had that kind of be that sort of like, like unreliable narrator, like, do we trust her? Do we not trust her sort of thing? I thought that worked out really, really well. The reveals were all handled really well. The Sting episode was hilarious.
Yeah.
Even some of the more like weirdly artistic stuff, like Dragon, they found a way to basically legitimize the James Rolfe like mascot character style and turn it into something that's actually artful.
my favorite thing in season one, like the big hook of the show for me, I think, with people is what we do with Nathan Lane and his son in that show.
Oh yeah, oh
Like
yeah,
that episode. You know what episode I'm talking about? The
yeah. It's
episode
late
with
in the season, but yeah, it's great. It's great. It's
that's
worth
yeah.
waiting for. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's like, oh my god, like the show's like on the next level, and they're gonna kind of keep going from there. It's like, yeah, it's a really good show.
And of
I
course,
also
just all the meta stuff about actually getting the podcast off the ground and everything. That's a lot of fun.
oh, think of
Yeah.
your girl in it. Yeah, your girl from the Holdovers.
The holdover.
Oh come on, man. There's like 3 characters in the Holdovers. Come on.
Remind me.
Okay, the female character from the Holdovers.
Yeah, but who is she?
What
actress
she's
is she?
she's the detective. She's the detective in the show.
Okay, I know who you're talking about, but like I don't.
Davine Joy.
Is she my girl?
Yeah,
Who?
like Davine Joy, is that like her name? Like the
Divine Joy Randolph. Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's the detective in the Memoirs. Remember, like the one that keeps calling him in, is like hates dealing with him. Like that.
You know what? That's funny because I didn't even. I hate to say this. I didn't recognize her. She's great, but I feel like honestly, that kind of speaks to her as an actress.
That's what I'm saying. This is where she made her bones.
Because in the Holdover, she is like such a, like she goes through such a wild emotional journey, and in this, she's a little bit more, like she's willing to let her comedic flag kind of fly a little bit more,
Yeah.
So yeah, I like her definitely. I just didn't recognize her. But yeah, Selena Gomez was definitely surprising how engaging I thought she was as an actress. And obviously Steve Martin Short just have impeccable chemistry. Obviously, I mean, no surprise.
I love.
So yeah, very much enjoyed this.
I really love giving Steve Martin pathos, which they did in that show, which you so rarely see. Like when we see
absolutely, it's so nice to see.
Because again, the man's got great range,
but
we never give him the opportunity.
Facts.
Okay,
next up.
Let's see. Next up, we have. Yes. We have The Boys, Season 4.
This is the one out of the 2 major superhero shows. This is the one I'm a bit more reluctant to actually catch up on.
I mean, look, don't let anyone scare you off. You're a big boy. Make your own viewing decisions, Anyway, so this is okay. Here's the thing. I'm just saying, a lot of people call this the dicey season. I liked it. Everyone's. I think it feels like everyone's hating on the season, and they pretty much are. I love that it's building to an ending with season 5. I really do, and the way it's structured right now is like at least as they say, and whether they're going to hold up this end or not. I'm just saying right now the way they're kind of phrasing it is that we are building to an ending, but we're having like a kind of supplemental stuff along the way, but it's all fitting into like this ending that we are getting with 5, which again, The Boys does have an ending as a comic, similar to Invincible. And Invincible is going to be it's going to be a lot longer before we get to that ending. But you see, So there's this season we definitely play with. We're starting like kind of in a Breaking Bad-esque way. We have a ticking clock at play here, where time's not going to be like a year per season. It's going to be okay. So we have Billy Butcher, as we established at the end of last season. He's dying. He's got a few months left to live, and we're basically paralleling that to the election year, where it's like, okay, we have to prevent a suit from getting into office, during this election, which is kind of like tandem to how much time Butcher has left. And while he's dying, he wants to set things right with Ryan, and he wants to kill Homelander, which those are his 2 imperatives. And will he have time to get those in before he kicks the bucket? So that's already a pretty good sell for 4, just in terms of like what 4 has going for it. Jack Quaid, he really impresses this season, as he tends to do. And of course, he's already impressing on Superman with his voice work, but he's doing pretty good here, as he tends to do. He's got Tiki. He's got a real standout episode, Simon Pegg. We bring back Simon Pegg for 1 episode. And it's a very memorable episode. But here are the problems of season 4. And that's not many in my book. In my book, there's only 2 issues with season 4. Okay, there's the side plot issue of we have some stalling and some padding, which is unfortunate, yes, and that's most likely why a lot of the hate's
And
being brought.
honestly, I feel like The Boys has always kind of had that to a certain extent.
I don't think it's had as I don't think it's always had that problem. I
Yeah,
think
but that's
maybe
what makes me worried specifically about the season, though, is I've always kind of felt that, and if you're feeling it now, then it might be really bad.
that's the thing. So Frenchie has a plot line which is a lot. We do,
Frenchie's storyline, just in general, is the
yeah.
padding that I'm kind of talking about. He honestly, he feels like the type of character where if you cut him out, you wouldn't really be losing a whole lot.
Well, I mean, Tiki,
Honestly,
worst case, you could always just fast forward through the Frenchie parts.
I guess, but that doesn't feel. I mean, that feels like a little bit of a cheat. I don't
Well, I
know.
know. I'm just saying, if you're
Comfortable
that on the
land with
fence
that.
about watching it, it's a way you could do it. I mean, in theory, But
I
anyway,
guess.
okay. The point being, so Frenchie, we do some relationship BS with Frenchie, which is like it's unnecessary. You're right. It's very cuttable. And on occasion, we just have the occasion we throw in like a WTF kind of like we have flying sheep and soup chickens. Like that's
Uh,
we just throw a couple things. Like for example, we have the really great Jack Quaid episode with Simon Pegg, and then on the flip side, we have Super Chicken.
right.
Which I mean, look, it's fun. Don't get me wrong, it's fun. But you can get a sense they just kind of threw it in there for kind of like we need a shock value kind of thing there. So we're gonna throw in an indestructible chicken. Anyway, so here's the other issue I have. There's that. There's this. There's one episode. I think it's episode 6. Episode 6 is the big Tech Night episode. Now we introduced this guy properly on the Gen V, which we did a really good job with him there. It's like the idea he's the Tech Knight's kind of a parody of Batman. In the comics, he was more like a parody of Iron Man, I think, but I could be wrong there because again, I try to steer away from the comics because the
Mhm.
comics is not as good as the show. Point being, Tech Knight, we went too far here. Where I think we should have stuck closer to what we did when we first saw him in Gen V. Because what we did with him here is that the Tech Knight, put simply, is he has super deductive capabilities because he has super senses where he can like taste, touch, smell, feel, kind of like that kind of stuff. And he also has a hole fetish. That's the gag. He's obsessed with holes. He has like he sees a hole. Let's just say he desires to fill that hole. I will put it that way.
Yikes.
Regardless, so again, that's what we have in Gen V, and that's the funny gag with it. Like, okay, that's the sick and twisted thing where okay, this guy he's got a hole fetish, but we didn't just do that here, which is what we should have done. Like the gag is Huey is undercover as a Spider-Man parody, which is really funny, especially considering he played Spider-Man technically in Across the Spider-Verse. That's pretty funny. So the gag there should be okay. Huey is playing a character, and the way we do our parody of Spider-Man is he, like an actual spider, shoots his web through a hole above the butt, being the
Hmm.
gag. So you think, okay, Tech Knight wants to buddy up with the Spider-Man parody because of the extra hole. Okay, that would track. Problem: we don't do that at all. We have like Tech Knight is a deplorable guy with a sex dungeon, and he does horrible things to Huey, and it's like I feel they went too far on that. I really do. I think that's to me where they went too far. So so that's to me that's where the hate I think was warranted for season 4. We went too far for shock value. In that regard, we end on some major buildup for 4, which we're ending on a low point where the boys are going to have quite the mess to dig themselves out of for season 5. So we have that going for it. The Homelander has an Emmy episode. I'll tell you that much. That's the main reason you should watch it, Tiki. There's an episode Anthony Starr. He ups his game. He's always been good, but he turns it all the way up for an episode where he's as terrifying as you've ever seen him.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Next up, we got It's Always Sunny, season 6. Um, this was all right, Dragon. I feel like this season was a little bit of a mixed bag for me. I don't think it was as consistent as the past couple seasons. But that being said, I also think it has some of the funniest episodes that I've seen so far. Some of the big highlights here we have the gang buys a boat is probably like the big standout episode for me. of course, it's got the whole God, that whole ridiculous Dennis conversation. Oh man. Probably the most like proof that Dennis Reynolds is a sociopath that I've seen on the show so far. Let's see. We have Who Got D Pregnant, which is really funny just because of the like the progressive absurdity of like how D just kind of like slowly turns into an actual bird throughout the episode, like through the flashbacks and stuff. That's really funny. Let's see. We have Charlie Kelly, King of the Rats, with the spaghetti bit, which is classic. And then A Very Sunny Christmas was great. We covered that for Christmas in July. Other than that, Dragon, honestly, I feel like D Gives Birth is a good episode just as far as like I like the wrap up to that story. I think it's a nice send off for the two characters that actually get D's baby in the end. I think it was a sweet moment, kind of rectifies some of the transphobic elements that we've done with that character over the years. Kind of, it was nice to see that character kind of leave off on a very positive note. Most of the other episodes are kind of like, they're not bad, but they're definitely not like firing on all cylinders for me. And now with this season coming up, which I know is the Fat Mac season, I don't want just a bunch of jokes about like, wow, Mac, you look like shit. You really need to lose weight, bro. You're eating too much. I don't know, man. I kind of fear that I've already gotten past the best of Sunny. So I'm still going to keep watching, but this season, while still good and while still definitely having some high points, it didn't feel like the sort of compulsive, like, oh man, like I can't stop watching. Like let's say seasons 3 through 5 were. I think seasons 3 through 5 really were kind of the show's golden age for me so far. All right. But again, some all-time great episodes in here still. All right, so Dragon, tell me about some Dirty Pop. Dirty Pop.
Yeah, so Dirty Pop, the boy band scam. Here's the thing. This had me, and then it kind of lost me. It's 3 episodes. It's about there's this. It's basically about this crooked band manager who was the manager. Was Lou something, who basically was the manager for NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a Ponzi scheme of sorts. Essentially, he was a walking Ponzi scheme. He had invested in like blimps and everything. So he was like he had a lot of money, and he basically he had his finger in a lot of pies. And he was again, he had a number of sham businesses, and the boy band seemed to be kind of like the legit one to essentially kind of funnel the money through. It seems, and he was very. It's an interesting sell, Tiki, but I think it doesn't really talk about how the scam works until the very end. I think it's a little late, and I think it's a little,
My whole thing with this is that, like, I've seen several YouTube videos that get into pretty deep detail about this same story, and
yeah,
that's kind of the hang up I've had with some documentaries like this, where it's like, I just genuinely don't think that this would have much to offer that those YouTube videos don't.
One thing I didn't know really about any like YouTube videos, but just taking it on its own, it's like it does feel like it could have gotten into like the workings of like how precisely it, like this how the scam actually works. So I think given the title, I think that's kind of a bad thing if I'm still kind of wondering how exactly it worked by the end. Also, a lot of people are kind of like
Margot Robbie in a bathtub explaining it, Dragon.
Oh, we could always use Margot Robbie in a bathtub. But also, a lot of people are up in arms about the whole. The framing device was rather unique, but it's something. They had the actual guy who's now dead. They had Lou, the band manager. Basically, I forget if he did like an audiobook or not, but if he didn't, the way they did it was very suspect. They had him. AI.
No, please don't tell me it's AI. Oh, fuck.
Now I can't remember if the AI specifically.
If it is AI, I'm not watching it. Just straight up, I will not support that.
Well, that's the thing. So the AI specifically in this was it's either one of two things, possibly both. I think they moved his mouth in the interview, and I think it's all. I think it's archival recordings, but they animate his mouth, so he's like saying
Oh, that's
the audio.
weird. I don't like
Now
that.
it's either that, or it could be worse, and I could be wrong here. It could
It
be
could just
worse
be a
where,
deep fake.
well, no, I'm saying the whole thing of the audio as well could be AI. That's the thing. I
Hmm.
don't know. This is what I'm saying about the Mark Hamill thing. Tiki, after we're done here, I'm going to show you that clip, and I want you to tell me what you think, just to
No, you
prove
don't
that I'm
have
not.
to do that. I believe you.
That's all right, because you made me think like you didn't believe me initially. That's why I'm asking. Okay. Anyway, so we're gonna okay.
All right. So next up, we are on catch up, and I'm going to warn you guys, this is going to be pretty rapid fire on
Yeah.
my end for reasons that will be obvious soon. All right. Dragon. Well, I guess I'll start. So, Dragon, do you know about Mubi by any chance? The streaming service?
Mubi?
Yeah, Mubi.
I've seen the name. I don't know anything about it.
So essentially, it's like a curated streaming service where the idea is essentially like instead of having like a giant library of films, it's like a hand-picked selection of art house independent movies. And I really like the idea, but I will say that I did the free trial and I thought the free trial was kind of good enough. I didn't really besides this movie, I didn't really find anything that really compelled me enough to actually like watch through it. That being said, with these types of movies, you really have to be in the right headspace for them. A lot of them are like very deep, like art house foreign type of movies. So, I just don't think $15 a month is a good price point for that for me, considering I might watch I might be in the headspace to watch a few of them a month. But Gasoline Rainbow, though, this one did really work for me, and it did really have me compelled. And Dragon, this is by all intents and purposes, it's kind of a found footage movie, but it's a found footage movie that's like a coming of age story. There's no horror involved in it at all. There's no broad comedy like Project X. Instead, essentially the premise of this is it's very much leaned into the Gen Z of it all. That kind of like, and I will say that as far as like movies specifically about Gen Z, this might be like the definitive one so far that we've gotten. Um, so essentially, the premise is that it's like a group of high school seniors. I think it's like three boys and two girls, and they live in this small town. I think it's in the middle of Washington. Dragon. It's kind of like it's almost kind of got a White Pine Bay sort of vibe to it, right? Like it's a very small town, kind of like one of those towns where you just feel stuck. And so they are going on a road trip, and they don't know where they're going. They're basically just like meandering around, and the whole thing is filmed on 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 like cell phone cameras and stuff like that in a really authentic way. And essentially how I think this movie got made was essentially like because there are characters in it that they come across. It's kind of like Nomadland in that way, where there are people that they meet that kind of like guide them through their journey and like point them towards different things. But really the whole movie is just kind of about these kids like finding themselves, and kind of like really they're all kind of struggling in their own ways with their identity. And this kind of this kind of trip is like almost a spiritual awakening for all of them in different ways. I thought this was a very powerful film for me. I actually it's up there for one of the best of the month for me. I don't think it's your type of movie because it's very slow paced. It's very meandering. It's very meditative, but I think it really put me under its spell. And like I said, I think it's got a really interesting creative use of found footage in a way that I've not seen before, where instead of the usual found footage trope of the horror movie or even found footage comedies have come out here and there, this is more just found footage slice of life, and I really appreciate that. And I think the found footage element just adds so much authenticity to it. So yeah, I would highly recommend this. It's on Mubi. That's how I found it. But again, I can totally see it not necessarily being everyone's cup of tea. All right, so Dragon Godzilla X Kong. I had
Yeah.
fun with this. I don't know if you did.
So this is better than I expected.
Yeah, pretty much
It's
same reaction here.
it's no Godzilla -1, but still, it's better than I
Uh-huh,
thought.
uh-huh.
Here's the thing: basically, it feels like a good version of like the King Kong Jr. film. Like so they did. I think they did one of those, right? It was like King Kong, like the
Son of Kong, yes.
Son of Kong.
It came out like literally like 6 months after the original. It was a rush job.
That's what I'm saying. This feels like a good, like a better version of that. That's kind of like, at least it feels like we're gonna attempt like kind of a version of that story, but we're actually gonna make it good. The problem is, so well, there's somewhat of a disappointment of like a disproportionate billing here, where it's like it's more King Kong and like
It's
Godzilla's
very
show
much
like
more a King Kong movie. I don't mind that as a King Kong fan. I'm more of a King Kong fan than I am a Godzilla fan.
I
But
know it's just the whole Kong Godzilla X Kong, especially if Godzilla's coming first. It just feels kind of weird that he's gonna be in the last third of the movie.
yeah, no, I feel that. There's some stuff they do with Godzilla that I really like, but yeah, he's definitely sidelined for a lot
Still
of
not
it.
crazy about the pink, but it's what it is.
Well, what I like about Godzilla in this movie is that I feel like throughout the whole movie he's essentially building up a spirit bomb.
Yeah, that is pretty neat.
Yeah,
The human actor. Here's something. The human actors, they're doing good. I think we've kind of got.
for
It
sure.
feels
For sure.
it feels like we finally hit a sweet spot with the human actors. That said, like the only thing that drags, and this is not like a bad. I'm not saying like it drags the mood. I'm just saying like the one thing of like I think we've gotten our human characters just where we need to get them. The only exception being like it's kind of a Rebecca Hall's character and like in the Mothra Girl. It's like
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Those characters are kind of bland.
it's not even like a blame. It's like the plot of like, and I've adopted this child and I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, okay, we've kind of seen that before, but it's.
But Brian Tyree Henry and especially Dan Stevens.
Dan Stevens was
really surprised me.
He was the standout. I think Dan Stevens was really good in this one.
I mean, it's just a really cool idea for a character in this universe, like a kaiju dentist. How cool is that?
That's great. So that's what I'm saying. I was very sold on that.
Uh-huh.
Kong's villain isn't much.
I like the villain. I think he's got a lot of personality to him.
I don't know.
He does like he's no Proximus Caesar, but I don't know.
He's the red one.
No, I think he's more than that.
Anyway, so here's the thing. So overall, look, I don't think there's a whole lot to it, but I think I like the style to it. I like the musical choices. I like the moments with Kong. Just seeing like Kong's day to day. That's really fun. I think Kong has some personality going for him. Also, I like the metal cast. Like the whole kaiju cast is really cool. Anyway, so. I mean, I think it's just more targeted in the story than Kong versus with the way we balance out.
I think this is a better movie than Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah, here's the thing: Godzilla versus Kong. The actual fight, the fighting and the action is really good in that movie. Again, the monster stuff was good in that movie. Just again, the human stuff dragged it down. But this I feel we've ironed out that component. And it feels like it feels somewhat if we just mix and match, we would have like a perfect like Kong Godzilla movie somewhere. If we just could have combined them both. So yeah.
All right. So let's see. Next up, oh boy, Dragon. We got Fox and the Hound 2, baby. So. This movie honestly wasn't terrible. I kind of have fun with it in the same way that I have fun with something like Home on the Range. The animation is surprisingly good. That's one thing that I've kind of realized about some of these later directed DVD sequels is that the animation, like it's not like theatrical level, but it's not bad. There's some decent lighting. I will say that the actual country music in this is nice. I'm a fan of like Americana style country music. I don't really like modern country music, but I like throwback Americana style country. That being said, Dragon, the big thing with this movie is that it's just wildly unnecessary. Obviously, it doesn't really add anything. You get to see a little bit more shenanigans from Amos Slade and the Widow, which are fun, but just really, it's a very superfluous movie as far as like, oh no, Copper's gonna join the band, and that's gonna make Todd jealous. Like it's you can see the whole movie coming from a mile away. I do like the fact that a lot of it takes place at like an old school state fair, like that's a really unique setting for me as far as like given the time period. So there, like the vibe of this movie is fine. It's just you're taking a movie that's already pretty sanitized from its original source material, but still did have a lot of bite to it. And you're just sanding off all the edges to it. You're like, yeah, and that's where this movie is like, it's certainly not the worst that I watched this month, but it's not great and it's wholly unnecessary. All right, Knox Goes Away. You were pretty stoked about this one.
Yes, I was looking forward to this one. This is Keaton's directorial debut. He directed, produced, and starred in this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it had a solid trailer, and I tell you, it delivered on that trailer. It's a good sell. It's Keaton. You see why Keaton wanted to play it. It's a unique kind of like it's a kind of a crime story here.
My whole thing is that I'm sick of like. Basically, I feel like the John Wick formula is the new Die Hard formula. So it's like this movie is essentially what if John Wick but Alzheimer's.
I mean, I don't know. It's not like an extensive world of John Wick. I think it's a lot more grounded than John Wick than you're going to.
I'm just saying the style of it. The style of it.
I mean, maybe I don't know. If it's John Wick, it's very early John Wick before we have like we go globetrotting, or we have like we go as big as we went with the John Wick movies. I don't know, but anyway, so this it's a hitman with dementia. Keaton plays it very well, just like he plays like the lapse in memory thing. We have this nice framing device where it's like he goes to a doctor, and the doctor tells him he has like weeks, not months, before his mind completely goes. And like we start like week 1, then week 2, and then like we kind of jump around a little to see like, oh boy, he's it's more than 2 weeks. That's not good for him. James Marsden, he plays his son, and nice. So the idea here is James Marsden is his son. His son committed a heat of the moment kind of murder. Basically, he murdered the guy that that raped and impregnated his daughter. And basically he's going to his dad for help, and that is is Keaton. Again, this is really great wonder. Again, just in the writing of this thing, it's just like goes to his father's house, and it's sort of like, who are you? And again, he's like not telling his son. He's got like the memory thing, but it's just like that they have like a distant relationship. It's not. I want to be clear. It's not like the Axel Foley thing. Not like that. It's just,
right.
It's not like, I'm just saying like legitimately, he's an older man, the fully grown son. He's got a family of his own, that kind of thing. Anyway, so he goes to his dad for help. But again, there's not an unreliable narrator thing, but it's the whole like unreliable protagonist thing, where it's just the idea that, there's an ambiguity of like, how much does he remember? We're kind of playing with that a little bit here. It's a nice and understated crime movie where, again, we're not fully going John Wick. We're not fully going like anything fantastic. It's very grounded, very simple. It's just what it needs to be. Like there's somewhat of an Albuquerque versus quality to it in terms of like, this feels like something Mike Ehrmantraut might go through, and I really like that component to it. It's less John Wick, it's more Mike Ehrmantraut.
All right.
Where you have a clever older character who is losing his faculties, and he's in a position where he's trying to close up shop, but he doesn't know how much time he's going to have before, again, the way they direct the memory thing pretty well too. Anyway, so Keaton, again, he shows his directing chops on this. I'll admit, Pacing's a little iffy, but it's a solid movie. You know, I mean, you be the judge. I mean, how well the pacing is. You know, might.
I mean,
You know,
me. That's one of the big things for me. So
it's not a long movie though. It's like an hour and 40 minutes. So I don't know. It just depends on how long it feels. So I mean, you'd have
right,
to be the
right.
judge. So regardless, I think it has a good ending with some ambiguity to it, which I don't know. It's I enjoyed it. I liked it. I'm not singing the praises off a mountaintop, but you know, it's like good on you, Keaton. There's the Keats.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Okay, Bambi 2.
Electric
Dragon,
Boogaloo.
Dragon, I'm not kidding you. This movie, it's not better than the original, but holy fuck, it surprised me, dude. It really surprised me. This is great. It's genuinely great. Patrick Stewart is the Great Prince of the Forest is just he just carries the role really well. Honestly, this movie feels way more like the original Bambi than I thought it would, where there's a lot of sequences that are just very meditative, very artistic. I actually like the characters of Thumper and Flower a little bit more in this than I do in the original, because I feel like in the original they kind of just eat up a lot of screen time, and in this they're a little less present, but they are there to kind of serve as like kind of like the levity of the movie in a story that is very heavy. And I'll say this, Dragon, this whole movie essentially exists to right the wrong of the original movie, of the, you know, the infamous hard cut of, you know, from your mother can't be with you anymore to tra la 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 spring 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 spring. Like, because this whole movie marinates in the tragedy of Bambi's mother's death and explores it in a lot of ways, and the whole thing is kind of like a meditation on grief. And I was not expecting that out of Bambi 2. And Dragon, there's one sequence in particular that genuinely shook me. And I'm just gonna lay it out for you a little bit. Essentially, what happens is they reuse the audio of the original voice actress as Bambi's mother, but they distort it, right?
Yeah.
And so essentially the idea is that man is using a deer collar to lure Bambi into the meadow.
Ooh.
And it's disturbing as all fuck, man. It got under my skin pretty bad. You know, because you just hear like, I'm here. You know, like it's so creepy.
Tiki.
What?
It's very creepy.
No, but I will say, Dragon, that scene got under my skin way more than the actual Bambi's mother's death ever did. Like, that scene is so fucking legit. The rest of the movie doesn't go that hard, but you know, it's still, again, it's still a very appropriately, like, of all the movies, it kind of has a Treasure Planet vibe, just because of the you know, the estranged father-son dynamic a little bit. Like, obviously the Great Prince is not like a bad guy, you know, he's just very stern and serious. And yes, Dragon, there are some stupid moments, like princes don't woo-hoo, you know, like there is a couple stupid things like that. But no, overall, man, this movie surprised the hell out of me, and it's kind of one of the reasons why I'm sort of glad I'm doing this, because you just never know with these sequels that I've never actually sat down and taken the time to watch, right? You just never know. I mean, for all I know, fucking something like Brother Bear 2 could like hit me like this does, you know? You just never know, and that's why I'm excited for this project. All right. Next up for you.
Let's see. Next up for me should be, oh yes, Faye, The Many Lives of Faye Dunaway. So this is a documentary. You know, this I don't know. This kind of jumped out. Here's the thing. So originally I was going to watch the movie Paint, and
Okay, the Owen Wilson one.
Yeah, which again I was looking forward to. I had a solid. You know, I was looking for like the whole. Okay, we're gonna have some parallels to Bob Ross. This might be kind of fun. And I was like halfway. either halfway through the movie or like maybe like almost halfway through the movie, and it's kind of it wasn't going the way I was hoping it would. It was just
I've
kind of
not
being.
heard good things about it, Dragon. I
That's the thing.
really haven't.
It just kind of like I was watching it, and I was just kind of like at a certain point, I was like, you know what? Why am I doing this to myself? Why
Oh
do I?
God, that bad.
Well, no, it wasn't even that bad. I was just like, I'm in a cycle. Why do I have to? Why am I doing this? It was just the thing of like, I mean, I know how this is gonna go. He's very threatened in his position by the female thing. It's gonna be like a battle of the sexes kind of thing. I mean, I mean, I have the Beverly Goldberg actress in this. She's better than this. Why should I sit through this? It was just like, I mean, oh, Wilson's better than this. She's better than this. Why do I have to subject myself? I'm a big boy. I don't have to subject myself to this. I'll hit the exit button, and I did.
Good for you. I'm proud of you.
Anyway, so I watched the Faye Dunaway documentary, and apparently Faye Dunaway is very hard to work with.
Okay.
Yeah, so it makes you wonder, in hindsight. Now, this is a headcanon, mind you. I don't think they really talk about this during the. They talk about, there's a famous like photo she did post getting her Oscar way back, so they talk about that, but they don't talk about the whole La La Land thing.
Right. Yeah.
It's fun. So it does make you wonder, though. Warren Beatty, her co-star in the movie that essentially won her the big movie for. You gotta wonder. He did essentially give her that envelope and made her, like, he was unsure about it, and he made her read it. You gotta wonder, did he do it on purpose now?
Oh God.
Yeah, seriously, it makes you wonder, because you can see Beatty had that hesitation. He's handed her that envelope, and perhaps it's because, again, she's difficult to work with.
Right.
In the Mommy Dearest in Chinatown, like, she's been in these iconic films, and the idea though being, and we kind of get into it. She's difficult, and also she might have like kind of a bipolar thing going on. So there's a lot there. It's informative. I mean, I don't think it quite stuck the landing. Like, it didn't have a memorable ending, but it was just like, this is Faye Dunaway. It's not a sanitized look at Faye Dunaway. It's everyone's saying, like, talking crap about her. But they're also talking about like the good stuff that she did, but it's a lot of it though is like, yeah, she was, she's very controlling, and she's like the old Hollywood starlet,
For sure.
But it's an informative watch.
I don't really know much about her, honestly.
That's the thing. If you don't know much about her,
stuff, that's what I know about her.
Well, there you go.
So, okay, all right, Dragon. Speed run of Disney sequels.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go through 3 of them, and we're going to go through them really fast because all 3 of these are like kind of like equal levels of whatever. Pooh's Heffalump Halloween movie. So honestly, out of these 3, it's probably the most tolerable, but also probably the most disposable. It's just like a straight to video follow up to the Heffalump movie. Lumpy's in it. It's mostly a Roo movie. We get like, it's one of those like movies where it's like we get like a main story, but then like halfway through the movie we essentially get like an episode of a TV show through Roo telling a story to Lumpy to make him feel less scared about Halloween. Pretty damn disposable. Not much really there. There's a fun running gag with Gopher where he's every time Gopher appears, he's like dressed up as a different character from the 100 Acre Wood. That's fun. There's a couple amusing bits with Rabbit. But yeah, not overall not great. Not pretty forgettable. Okay. Hunchback 2. I mean, Dragon, you can imagine this one is honestly, here's the thing is I feel like if this movie didn't look as bad as it actually does, I feel like I'd be a little bit more forgiving of it because the villain is genuinely pretty decent. He's fun. He's charismatic. Obviously nowhere near Frollo, but they're not trying to be Frollo. But the rest of the movie is just kind of trash. It looks trash. It's easily the worst of the Disney sequels that I've seen so far. It'll probably end up towards the bottom. And then Pocahontas 2 is honestly probably the biggest mixed bag of the whole lot so far. there are certain things in Pocahontas too that I actually think, granted the first movie obviously not like a big beacon of quality for Disney, but there's certain things that I think Pocahontas 2 actually does a little bit better than the first movie. I actually think that Radcliffe in this movie is genuinely like a better villain because he's actually like scheming and making plots and stuff, and like he's got this angle going where he wants to turn the king against Pocahontas, and like that's way more compelling to me than just like, oh, the island's filled with gold and it's gonna be mine. I do like the John Smith fake out death in this, and then him coming back, and then the brief little rivalry between the two equally boring John characters for Pocahontas's affection. I like the Native American bodyguard character that accompanies Pocahontas to the New World. I think he's honestly kind of the highlight of the whole thing for me. He's got a lot of good kind of comedy beats to him. Overall, there's not a lot to it. I feel like the animation is like definitely not as impressive as something like The Fox and the Hound 2 or Bambi 2, but it's definitely not as bad as like Hunchback 2 or like Return to Jafar or something like that. It's kind of very much in the middle. It's obvious that it's not like theatrical. Like you would never be able to release this movie theatrical. Whereas Bambi 2, I feel like Bambi 2 you could probably get away with giving it the Jungle Book 2 or Return to Neverland treatment. This not so much. But I don't know. It's a mess. It's definitely a mess, but considering it's fucking Pocahontas 2, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. So, for whatever that's worth. All right, Dragon. Let's see. Sorry, 1 second. Trying to read the comment here. The direct-to-video Winnie the Pooh films for my shit. Yeah, I mean, look, the Heffalump Halloween movie, it's not bad, but, it's just, I don't know, it's just pretty par for the course for what a late-stage Winnie the Pooh movie is, It's just nothing that I'm going to remember, really. Okay, Dragon, best and worst, what do you got?
All right, best, shocker, Deadpool Wolverine.
No!
Yeah, you thought I was going to say Knox goes away, didn't you?
Oh, God.
All right, okay. Worst, honestly, there's a few contenders for worst. Look, honestly, in terms of like which one hurt my feelings most, it's going to be, Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3. Look, in terms of like actually worse. Look, I don't want to dog on Pete Siegel, man. I don't want to just say My Spy 2. I might have to say Axel F, just in terms of it's just playing out. That's what I'm saying. Look, I have to be mean to somebody. Those three are the ones that are on my crap list. And I'm just saying, like My Spy and Beverly Hills Cop, again, they're kind of the most forgettable of the bunch. And I'm ticked off at Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths, but it's for one scene I'm really ticked off. But you know what? It didn't land. It's Part 3. This is the last ditch effort. Out of spite, I'm gonna say Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3.
All right, fair enough.
Spite.
Yeah, honestly, for me, like, I don't know. For best, like, there's nothing this month that really blew me away. Like, honestly, I'm tempted to fucking say Bambi 2 just because Bambi 2 certainly, out of everything that I saw this month, certainly the one that exceeded my expectations the most. Like, absolutely. But, it's still not a great movie. Like, I'm certainly not going to say it's better than the original Bambi by any stretch. I'm going to go ahead and say Twisters is my best movie, just because it is a really fun throwback. I love Glenn Powell. Some really great set pieces. One shot in particular during the final act, which is just incredible. Like, holy shit, that's an iconic shot. But I don't really feel that strongly about it, though. I feel like Maxine could also be like a solid contender for my best, but again, I don't necessarily feel strongly about that. And then worst, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's got to be Hunchback 2, right? It's got to be. There's no way it's not. Although granted, I'm tempted to say Longlegs just because I feel like Longlegs like pissed me off a lot more than Hunchback 2 did. But maybe that's just because like I went into Longlegs wanting it to be really awesome, and I knew Hunchback 2 was going to be kind of trash. But yeah, just to be fair, I'll say Hunchback 2. I cannot in good consciousness say that Longlegs is worse than Hunchback 2. All right. Little Blue says, I like Fox and the Hound 2 and Bambi 2 probably more than the first ones. I don't hate them, but man, they have deep stuff and with feel of them. Yeah, Fox and the Hound 2 definitely. I mean, I don't know. I could honestly see like with Fox and the Hound 2, it's the third act stuff that really, really hits in the first movie that doesn't hit in Fox and the Hound 2. I will say Fox and the Hound 2 is probably a better paced movie than the original, because the original is very like lax, like it's got a very kind of like almost I don't know what's the word, Dragon, like the tone and the pacing is just very like very just deliberate and methodical. It's not a very fast-paced movie, whereas Fox and the Hound 2 is easy to get into. Bambi 2 is a contender, but like it's like, I mean, the original Bambi is just such an artistic masterpiece that I can't in good consciousness say that Bambi 2 is better, even though I will say that Bambi 2 might legitimately have better character work in it, but just from a pure animation craft technical point of view, I can't say that Bambi is worse than Bambi 2. But yeah. All right, well that's about it. We're entering into August, which means things are about to get a little bit dicey. That Borderlands movie could be really good or really bad. We'll see. I already saw the new Shyamalan movie. We'll see about that too. I've got thoughts. All right. Big thanks to Little Blue, John Kelling, and Co Gios for joining us this month. All righty. Well, folks, that'll do it. We've waxed on long enough. And now it's time to put the pen down. Until next time, when we return for another fitting chapter in our
Movie Memoirs!
Movie Memoirs! Happy birthday, Mr. President.